Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. I see some folks in the chat. How's it doing? How you going? What's going on? I see a lot of howdies there. Look, I'm Woody. Howdy, 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 howdy. Big chillin', big chillin'. Yeah, yeah, yeah. As we should be. Just kind of chilling, listening to some music. It's a nice chip tune. As am I, as am I. Let's transfer over real quick. Make sure I'm not leaking nothing. Let's go. Very much excited for this as well. We're gonna get there. It's gonna be awesome. Everything is awesome. Hello, chat. How's everything going? How's everybody doing? We had some pre-chat excitement happening. I'm glad that's taking place. We got a lot of people in here, which is good. Always love to see people hanging around. Doing great. It's awesome up in this place right now. Let's see what we have here. What do I got going on? Yeah. How's it going, everybody? It's been a while since we've done one of these. We had one planned, some things happened, some unfortunate circumstances, but you know what? We're here today and we have ourselves a really great thing lined up today. And I will say, it's really cool that we have the guests that we have coming in today. It all started with something made out of cardboard. And somehow that led to me being able to talk to these great folk coming in. For those of you who don't know, we have, well, I mean, you've seen the thumbnail. You see what we have of the name of this stream. We're going to talk to the folks from Gram. It's going to be awesome. Not only do we have the folks of Gram, we're going to hopefully have a great conversation. We're going to have some fun times. I have some cool, some info here about y'all. We actually have two guests. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, but we have the co-founder and lead designer, who, great passion for creating their standout digital controllers, which, if you don't see in the background, I have mine right here, right there. And we also have the co-founding and marketing director, who's trying to drive that vision into the spotlight and with great marketing genius. They've been around for not that long, surprisingly, and considering they've only been around for doesn't even seem that very long, from what I understand. They're doing some great stuff. They're impacting this in a way that I haven't seen before. We have a lot of people talking about them, and enough to the point that they build great products. No joke. Yeah, for real. Well, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how they got there, their plans, all the good jazz. And hopefully we get to learn something about them. And so Let's get ready to try to ping them in. All right, I'm just going to try to get into this here video call with them or audio call. We'll see who's in, who isn't.
Howdy, howdy.
Hey! So far, we got one, and there's the other. There we go.
Oh, see if I can get my camera working.
We can hear you. There we go. You know what? I see them. Chat, I think it's time for y'all to see them as well. If you've been in their Discord, you know who they are. But let's try to get them on screen for once. And let me see if I can actually get the whole thing on. Oh God. That's not the thing. That's not what I'm looking for.
I like the masks.
We got some Lucha Masks happening.
That's so sick.
But there we are. We're on screen. Hello, everybody. Hi. Look, chat. Look, chat. There they are. The awesome folks behind Graham. All right, thems, fems, and what was it? What was the term? I was trying to use some cool transition of fellas, fems, and thems. How's it going, everybody? Fellas, fems, and thems. How's it going?
I love that.
I was workshopping that earlier, and I messed it up. Thought I was going to get it right the first time, but that didn't happen. But whatever. Fellas, fems, and thems. We have ourselves the folks behind Graham. Everybody claps in the chat. CLAP. How's it going? Yay! The chat isn't going that wild, but whatever.
It's all good. I see some familiar faces, you know.
That's good. That's good that we see some familiar faces. I want to say first off, how's it going? How are you feeling? Well, what's the day been like for y'all?
I'll let Nick go first.
Oh, honestly, just been a resting day. It was a crazy busy week. So, we've still been recovering from Genesis. So, honestly, just a resting day for us over here.
It sounds pretty accurate. From what I've seen, Genesis is usually one of those, like, it's like San Diego Comic-Con for everything nerd related for Smash, and then on top of that, it being such a large tournament to begin with, it's pretty crazy that y'all made your way up there. You had the one of your new controllers that we're going to talk about probably sometime later on, and you had a cool button release from what I saw too, and I'm like, oh, cool. Y'all had some stuff, some agenda to go through.
For sure.
I want to start off real quick with I want y'all to introduce yourselves. Like I said, I gave a little quick synopsis of who did what, but if you want to repeat yourself, which is good for me, let us know who you are, pronouns, all that jazz, and everything about y'all selves.
Yeah, I'll go first. Howdy, I'm Grammy Money. I'm the co-founder and the lead designer at Graham Digital Controllers. My pronouns are he, they, and I'm really excited to be here talking to you. I really appreciate you having us on.
Thanks.
Awesome. And I'm Bruises, and I'm the co-founder and marketing director of Graham Controllers. My pronouns are he, they, and I do all the marketing stuff, all the visual things and socials and all that jazz. So thank you for having us, Jesse. Thank you.
So one of the things I want to start off with, first off, is what would you say is your like intro to like whether it be Smash, FGC? I want to get to like the beginning. I don't even want to get to the controller part. I want to get to like, how'd you find this place? How did you get introed into all of this? I've had a little bit of interactions with y'all on the Discord. Something I found out is like, I want to say that's that stand-up bass that I've and apparently you talked to the bass player for Reverend Horton Heat. So I know there's some more in there than just Smash and FGC, and and I kind of wanted to know about y'all's stories, and then eventually, like, how did y'all hook up as a unit to get to this project, and where does all that come from?
Well, so I'll let Nick go first. And do we want to start from the beginning, or what? There's
From the beginning.
The beginning is always the great place to start, right? The beginning is always a great place to start.
Well, then I'll let Nick go first. It's your story to tell.
Oh, okay. Well, then I guess we'll start with, why you built the controllers. I think that's the best story to start with, right?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I've been playing Melee for almost 2 years at this point. It'll be 2 years this summer, which is not a long time. But what ended up happening was about 6 or so months into playing, I was playing on GCC. Nick actually, for my birthday, got me my first GameCube controller and adapter combo and stuff.
Ooh.
And the whole idea behind Graham started when I really wanted to try a box controller, and there wasn't any. The Frame One pre-orders had already closed up, and Box was on pre-order, LBX was on pre-order, and so we just had this moment where it was like, well, I could just make 5 of them, because all the DIY tutorials that I saw said, oh, you need to make at least 5 because of minimum order quantities and stuff. And when I made 5, I was like, oh, I'll sell 4 and keep 1, and then that way I basically get a controller for free because my friends paid for the one that I got as well.
Hell yeah.
And what ended up happening is I took the 5 to the local, and all 5 of them sold, and I ended up without a box controller. So I was like, okay, well, I'll make another 5. I'll make another 5, another 5. And I kind of kept iterating on the design, making it a little bit more. The original ones that we built were literally just open frame ones. The case designed by Biart or Rana Labs, and then from there we kind of expanded and customized the design to fit our needs. We both travel a lot for work, so it was one of those things where we really wanted something slim and portable and easy to carry around. And so over time, we had a moment where Nick was like, hey, we can turn this into an actual business. You don't need to just sell it to your friends.
Yeah.
And I would say, technically speaking, the business was registered in basically 1 month is going to be the 1 year anniversary of Graham.
Wow.
Yeah.
But we didn't really, I would say we really started Graham as a concept with the philosophy that we have in the summer with the Mainframe Drop, which was in like July, I'm pretty sure, July, August. That was kind of where I consider the start of Graham.
Ooh, dang, that's pretty. And yeah, happy Grahamiversary from Nitin.
Yes. Yeah, and the rest was kind of history. I'm going to kind of start where Grammy left off. Essentially, we had the Mainframe Drop. It was kind of like a vision that we had of, what if we did like a Matrix themed design, and then we had like a ton of marketing collateral that was surrounding that, because we're both artists, right? I mean, you picked up on like the musical inspiration, and that's actually how Grammy and I met. We met what was it, almost 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Or
Really?
a little over 3 years. Yeah. We met online through Instagram, believe it or not, because we're both, yeah, isn't it crazy? We're both musicians.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and so that's how we actually met. And we were sharing some music through, what was it, like Dropbox or something?
Yeah.
And we're like, hey, let's collab. And the rest has been history. We've been engaged for quite some time, and we live and work and create together. We kind of do a little bit of everything. So it's been really magical. But to go back to, July, August, when we did the Mainframe Drop, we were like, how crazy would it be to do 100? Could we create 100 devices? Because at that point, I think we had only made, what,
We made like
15
20. We made like
or
45.
20? Yeah.
Yeah, total. And
And
In
we're
small
like,
batches, I'm guessing too.
yeah,
yeah.
like basically like one-offs, and we were just like, well, what if we just ordered more? Like, what if we just did it? And we did it. And I'm not joking ya, it was the most challenging summer, because I don't know if you've been in the Texas heat recently, but it got to be 113 for like a week straight this summer, and
That's
so we
it.
were soldering.
I'm
We were
from
in the
SoCal.
garage.
I'm from SoCal
Oh
in the
yeah.
desert. So I think when we first moved up to our house up here, I'm glad we didn't have to do a mortgage payment for the first like 2 months, because the amount we spent on electricity to pay for the electric was the equivalent to what our mortgage payment would have been.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and
my goodness.
we pay them SoCal, we pay them California mortgages, right?
Yes.
And I mean, I remember so all of the devices that you've seen thus far have been made by the two of us by hand in our garage, right? Like, so, and our garage is not, we don't have like a fancy 12-car garage. We have a 2-car garage that barely, like, I can't park my car in the garage anymore because of Graham. And it is not AC or climate controlled at all. So it was hot in there. We went to Home Depot and bought a giant industrial fan to hopefully get some of the air from inside out into the garage. And yeah, it was way too hot. And this was before we had found a factory that would actually be able to make the controllers, like the PCBs, like to our specs. And so we were hand soldering everything on the PCB. And it was
every single point, which was what, 64 points on each PCB? The 64? That's a
pretty close
lot.
to this, somewhere like in the 50. So 50 solder points
Yeah.
per PCB. And then we also had to assemble the controllers. And yeah, it was a nightmare. I can't believe that we got it done, but that was our first big, like, when you think of a Graham drop where there's a ton of controllers, it's in stock for a while. That was our first one.
And
yeah, we sold out within the first, I think, 72 hours.
Yeah.
So
Jesus.
that was nuts. We had no idea. Yeah, we were living at the post office the next few days.
I mean, like, when you think about like the want and need for, I wouldn't say need, but like the market for a box controller, when your real options are kind of really just your Smashbox, maybe your frame ones, maybe the was Junk Foods had the lunchbox, I think that's what they call it.
LBX.
Yeah, exactly, the LBX. And that's pretty much it, unless you go DIY, which I want to say that's what I did, not just once, but twice.
I've seen the second one. The first one is that the H-tangle layout. I like that top row home.
Yeah, so this I actually got from like a YouTube video. I forgot what it was, and I realized that for what I was doing, these two didn't mean anything to me. This meant nothing, because I was trying to use it to learn some Smash, and I was like, oh, I really want to learn soldering. And the only reason I learned soldering is I wanted to learn soldering is because I was really interested in creating a box controller, because I just wanted to, do something. I'm very tinkery, despite the fact that the job I have has nothing to do with tinkering. So this was the first version. Then I was like, you know what? I like WASD, and that feels more natural to me, because having pinky up doesn't really feel pretty good. So I just like made an extra hole up in here so that I can have up on there. And as you can see,
Nice.
and thanks for showing sharing that video and kind of using that in the Discord as kind of like a quick little how-to guide. As you can see, a lot of Raspberry Pi Pico, some wiring, and keyboard switches, which I happened to buy some more for a secret project that I'm not going to talk to anyone about, but for the ones that know. Also, surprisingly enough, I had bought a soldering iron, and I ended up buying a different one because it's powered by USB-C. I think it was the Pencil is what it's called. And
Pencil.
The only reason I knew about that after I started soldering is because someone retweeted y'all saying, yeah, we got these, they're perfect. And that's how I found out about y'all. I didn't even know what kind of stuff you did. And then that's when I found out about your whole project. And it's kind of cool that the only way I even found out about y'all is because someone said, "Hey, look, this is a cool soldering iron we used," and I kind of like, "Oh, this is cool. This is a fun little project, neat little thing that we have going on right here."
Yeah,
Yo, that
when
makes me so happy because I remember posting that. I know exactly what tweet you're talking about because one thing that we really want in part with like our open source like project is that like anything that we use and we think is really cool, like we're not sponsored by anybody, we're just two dudes, right? But like I want to show people like, hey, this is a cool solution. Plus the pine sol is so cheap. Like
Yeah,
it's a no-brainer. It's so sick.
yeah. I feel so dumb because the soldering iron I bought was like $130.
Oh
But
no.
granted, it
yeah,
has a heat gun. It has a heat gun attached to it, so
yeah.
there's that. There's that.
That was one of the things with the pine sol that was so cool, and the reason that we're both so ride or die for it is like, first of all, it's open source. Like the actual
Yep.
pine sol itself is an open source hardware product, and second of all, when I was doing the whole reason we got a pine sol was because I was using a solder. I was into soldering like a couple of years back just for some music equipment, right? Like I made, I soldered up a mic kit. I, was building preamps out of old mixers and things like that. And what ended up happening was that soldering iron was really good. I liked it, but I
Mhm.
couldn't find tips for it anywhere. And couldn't find them on Amazon, couldn't find anyone that knew where they were. And when the excuse me, when the a friend of mine, Jack Plants, recommended the pine sol and said that basically every controller modder in the GCC space uses these now because they're super easy, cheap to get replacement tips, and they're portable, and you can use a USB power supply, like all of these things. And so we literally just were like, you know what, let's go ahead and do it. And we bought like 3 or 4 of them because we use them all over the place. We have them in our travel bag for events, and the rest is history. Those are beast soldering irons. They take a lot of damage. They're perfect.
Yeah, I recommended that to a HVAC guy that comes to our place of work because he needs to do soldering, but he had this like he had to bring like a mobile power supply and like a big bulky things like, yo, try this. And and because I closed the tab that after I had bought it, I had to find y'all's tweet about it to open up
Go to the site.
in order to show him what it was. And I was like, yo, that's awesome. And then like I think a month or two later he ended up getting it. But that's a whole separate thing. So y'all met through Instagram and like what was that? How did that even happen?
Do you want to tell the story or should I?
You can tell it. I already told some of it.
So Nick kind of was and still is really into like synthesizers and synth music. And I'm a baby in that. Nick is much more adept at that kind of stuff. I'm more, I obviously play a lot of jazz, old school stuff, but I was trying to get into it, and Nick had this this synth called the OP1, which is a really popular synth if you're a synth head. It was kind of hard to get at the time, right? This is like right after COVID, orders were backed up. It was hard to get, and Nick would be posting photos and like videos of their music playing with it, and I was searching the hashtag and I found it, right? Click on it, go ahead and decide to follow them, right? And then I think like a month or two went by. We didn't interact at all. It was just I would see their posts come up on my feed every now and then, and they posted on their story a picture of their toe, like right up next to their head, like this, like their
Wait, what?
foot right.
Okay, let me explain. I had
Yeah.
injured my foot. My toenail was like purple because I had injured it. And I was giving foot project like update pics of like because my kids like my friends that were following me.
For free on the
Sorry.
internet.
I know they wanted to know.
Perfect.
They wanted to know what was wrong with my toe and like if I was gonna lose the toenail, right? So I was like giving them like update pics. It was hilarious. Anyways, that brought us together. So Grammy messaged me and was like, first of all, how the hell did you put your foot by your head? And second of all, do you want to collab on and make some music, right? And I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's
That's fun.
collab, right? And then we just shared a Dropbox of music and we stayed up all night just like listening to each other's music, and it was crazy. And honestly, ever since, my toe's good, by the way, like it healed
Okay,
up,
good.
so
That's
I
good to
didn't
know.
lose a toenail, so
All right,
yeah,
cool.
I'm all good now.
All right. Sounds like when I went down a water slide in Mexico, and because they use plaster instead of like plastic like they should, my toe got caught and ripped off, hung out, and that's a whole thing. Yeah. Yeah,
Did you
Mexico's
lose your
crazy.
toe?
No, I still have my toe, but I did mess up my
Okay.
other toe because when I went to a show, I chose not to bring my Doc Martens that day, and I wore my Converse, and I didn't tell my parents about it because I didn't want to be restricted from going to shows. But
Oh, ouch.
yeah,
Oh,
I would I don't know about y'all, but like I was deep into the punk scene and the LA Skullcore scene out here. If you type into the chat Mata Mosca, MATAMOSKA, that is one of the bands that I would see frequently out there. Capital M.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, they were one of the bands I would see, and we would go to like places that were never technically venues, like parking lots, abandoned steel mills. Pretty sure I went into somebody's like abandoned house where it was supposed to be for sale, and no one actually was, just like they just turned on the electricity. Stuff like that.
Those are the best shows. Those are the best.
So what the fuck is up, Denny's?
Yeah, hell yeah, exactly. That kind of stuff, right? There was this one band that I would love to see because they just brought great energy. They were called Death Valley Meth Lab. And the singer had the singer had this like shotgun that he took all the mechanical parts into it, that he put a microphone in and slid the cable through. So as he was singing, it would look like he was about to blow his brains out from a shotgun. He covered himself in what I believe was theatrical blood. I don't know. He had a goat head that he would throw in the crowd, and we played soccer with it. So I'm not sure if it was theatrical blood. I remember one time they played some backyard. I picked it up and I was going waka 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 with the goat's head, and everyone was scared. Good thing I had hand sanitizer. I was a degenerate, but at the very least, I wanted to stay cleanly.
Like I said, I'm a jazz guy. I like, a little whiskey on the piano, and nice ambiance.
I know, and what's funny is like I'm like a metalhead. Like my preferred music that I listen to is like metal. Like Dwolin in the chat, like I've known him for so long. Like he's a metalhead too. So like I'm like more metalhead, Grammy's more jazz, and then you're more punk, Jesse. I love it. We're like such a blend of genres. I love it.
Yeah. Lately I've been really into this band that kind of like brings a long tradition of bringing music in English into Spanish, but doing it in a different way. They do a lot of norteño music. So the song "Pickup Folk" was the whistle? What's the whistling? What's the name of that song? I don't remember what it is. The mic can't pick it up. But yeah, they play norteño music. They have a norteño version of Scar Tissue, norteño version of like Capital Cities, of Vampire Weekend.
Hell yeah!
It's great stuff.
Definitely drop the link to that. I'll
drop it in the Discord. So if y'all want to know what the hell I'm talking about, you have to go to their Twitter and follow them on Twitter, and then go into their Discord. All right. So if you want to know what the hell I'm talking about, my fiance knows what I'm talking about. She loves it.
Great plug. Thank you. Well, your check will be in the mail.
Thank you. Just like that one marketing pitch I told you all about the city.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I was just talking to Nick about that, because what breaks my heart is seeing all these people that really want like the Genesis design, or they want the city, or they want the exclusives, right? And like the problem is, when we sold the exclusive, we told people, okay, this is exclusive to this event, like this is the thing. And so now we have a bunch of people that are like, oh well, I want the city, bring the city back, and we have to make sure that we stay true to our word on one hand, while also,
meeting
making
market
sure that
demand.
we make alike. So yeah.
Yeah, and we've rolled around the idea of potentially like these limited drops, like the Genesis design, the city, even our gold Graham Champ that we gave away as like an award for low tier. We've kind of like thought of the idea of maybe after a year, then we might reintroduce it as like another small limited batch drop, right? We might do that, but we kind of want to make sure that it feels limited. But who knows? We have a lot of other designs in the works. So we might just keep those limited. But yeah, it's a tough one. It's tough because those are the ones that have the most love. Like so many people were super disappointed that we didn't have a lot of the Genesis designs left after this event, but it was crazy, y'all. Like we had no idea the amount of love that was waiting for us in California. Yeah, y'all went hard. So
I'm gonna say it too. It's just like when people can see and sense that kind of attention to detail, that passion, the ability, hints on the next design, not on, don't drop any unless you feel like it. When they see that kind of passion and authenticity in the stuff that you do, like you people want to be a part of it. There's a lot of cool designs that you still have on the site that like are very unique, that kind of bring a lot of artistry to what is essentially very bland when you think about it, for the types of things that these controllers are. Like within the traditional FGC, you see people put all kinds of great artwork on their sticks and everything. Whereas in Smash, it's not really that. Like even like extreme artistry on the GameCube controller. Yeah, it's cool that you do these cool color designs and everything, but like ultimately it's such a small canvas to work with. When you have a big honking thing like this, there's a lot of potential to have great stuff on here. And I did that. I say that because I wanted an excuse to show you, hey gang, this is the 3D one, the one I just finished 3D printing that I upscaled that I realized was a little bit too small. Let me see if it shows on camera. Let me turn off the light. Let me turn off my light. Please, light, turn off.
That's me trying to wrangle the Google Home to shut off every night.
Well,
is it glow in the dark?
It's supposed to.
It's the glow in the dark one.
You can't see it very well because my fiance left the windows open, but I'll probably close them a little bit later to go ahead and do that. But yeah, that's the one I just did. Don't fall. And those red buttons. Beautiful. Those red buttons are the ones I 3D printed as well. So yeah, there's like I said, there's a whole lot that can be done with this kind of thing. One of the main reasons I even got a 3D printer in the first place was because A, I always thought they were really cool, but B, I always thought to myself, man, I really want to like one day make my own kinds of frames and buttons and do all kinds of crazy nonsense. And that aligned sometime after, getting my controllers. So like, for a weird way, like a lot of what this is doing and some of business ventures my fiance wants to engage in kind of don't happen without y'all. So thanks for all of that.
Oh,
thank you.
That makes me so happy to hear. Like we love that. Like I think that's one of our biggest things, as like we kind of consider ourselves as like polymaths. Like we kind of do a little bit of everything, and it's exciting to know that we were somehow a catalyst in your creative endeavors. That's so exciting.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, and it's not to like, I'm not trying to like get y'all to like me or anything. I'm just telling you this is the reality. It's like I don't get to where I am right now as far as like, my tinkering and stuff, had I not gotten the idea to want to get a controller. There's the whole problem with everyone trying to get a frame one, everybody trying to get a whatever. Then the open source comes through. Then from there, I find the soldering iron that I end up wanting to use the most, which is from y'all. Eventually getting my first actual box controller that isn't made out of cardboard and duct tape from y'all. And so it's kind of funny how all that comes together.
Absolutely. I wanted to touch on a piece that you said just now a second ago about like customization and
Hmm.
all of the options that you have with like
Certainly.
such a big canvas, and that's something that we've really that was part of the reason why we originally went fully open source, was that a lot of the stuff that is in the Slim is inspired by other open source projects,
Hmm.
and we would not be where we are in terms of the products that we're designing and the ability to even show artistry on these controllers in the first place without those open source projects that came before.
Hmm.
So like things like OpenFrame 1 were a huge inspiration for us with Graham Slim. And I think, we've been working with like controller modders, like traditional controller modders and resin casters, to actually, like, we give free button sets to resin casters, right? So that they can make their resin sets of Graham buttons available for anyone to use, right? And
Hmm.
we saw that was a big success at Genesis with Cell Store. We have Short Hop Customs, that is a really cool friend of ours in Dallas, that's talked about making some, right? There's quite a bit of we are trying to make sure that if you get a Gram, it's not just the piece that you buy, it's the ecosystem, right? You
Hmm.
don't need to come to us to get new buttons. You can find buttons from your local controller modder, or you can make new panels with your art commission that you do, right? So you can
Hmm.
commission someone to make a new panel for it, right? And that's why we publish all of our documentation. That's why we have such a thriving communities, because that's kind of the environment that we want to foster.
And personally, I can see that, like, not gatekeeping that type of knowledge is definitely something that brings people in and kind of want to, like, uh, it brings people into this world of accessibility to what seemed like forbidden knowledge for, for the most part. Like, to me, before I even found out about, the how any of this stuff can have been open sourced, like, I just thought it was just wizardry. Like, you cast a spell and boom, there's the box, and that's what it is. But, like, the more you share that knowledge, it just not, it's never a bad thing, right? Copyright is a big problem in the way that it is. And then again, I don't know if we need a horror Steamboat Willie, but that's a whole separate problem. But uh uh, sharing this knowledge really just brings out a lot of not just goodwill, but it shows that you can bring people in to uh, help them express themselves in a way they probably didn't have the chance to do in the first place. So, like, it's kind of like the DIY ethic of just the all the music scenes that I've ever been a part of. Like, hey, I found this way to do this thing. Let's all try to do it. Like,
Yeah.
specifically in the punk scene, like, do you have a guitar, bass, and drum? That's all you need. You can have a three-piece set, and you don't have to learn how to play good. You don't have to be super technical. You just have to know how to do it, know how to do the enough to get you by. And that's how, like, you can create and foster more community than what you thought you ever could in the first place. So to see that that's part of your overall vision and your overall work ethos is a great thing. It's always refreshing to see people are willing to want to help people out with things like this. And considering that's how you even got into this type of space in the first place, it just pays that goodwill forward for the next generation of individuals who will eventually see what your project is about and say, "Hey, I can do that too." I mean, I'm technically doing
Absolutely.
I'm technically doing that right now. I have another frame printing right now. This is has a point 0.2 layer height. I'm doing one with a 1.6, so that one's gonna be finer detail, and that's gonna replace this one pretty soon. I'll see it in about
Nice.
5 hours.
That's exciting. I'm glad you got a big enough 3D printer to do the frames. I don't have it. Actually, Nick, it's upstairs if you want to grab my hit
Which
box,
one?
the one with the purple frame.
The
Uh
purple frame. Let me grab it.
yeah, it so when prototyping, I prototype with our 3D printer, and I I don't have one that's big enough
Yeah.
to print the whole frame, so you'll see it's actually two pieces like kind of tensioned together. But this was the prototype of the FGC that we were working on.
Oh man. Yo, that's a good color right there.
Yeah, you can see where we have the split here.
The seams,
right?
yeah.
Two separate. A little bit of a sneak peek into the prototyping and what it looks like for us.
Hey, yo, that's dope.
And then we did the same thing, but we did for the Smash. We did like a red frame for this one. Pretty cool.
Yeah. I had some red PTG, and now see, because like I had no idea about it. I never knew that the different ones had to be at a certain melting point at different temperatures.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that's why my red frame was garbage. It wasn't hot enough. I was like 30 degrees too cool. That's why my benchy fell apart.
Picky. Yeah, it's picky. It's super picky. You're on the which printer are you using? I forget.
I'm using the Creality 5. Creality 5 Pro,
it.
yeah. I wouldn't necessarily say it was on a whim. It was definitely one of the ones I was researching. My fiance's like, amor, let's just go get it. I know you've been wanting it. I know you have grand ideas of what you would do with your printer. I wanted you to make me little fidget things so we can sell them at events too. And I'm like, all right, let's go. And we actually had a vendor event. She sells a lot of like tumblers, keychains, stickers, and stuff. And one of the things we got were these little fidget keyboards. That's like a 4-piece. And you can put some switches in there and just go click, 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 click. I left it in the other room. Otherwise, I'd be doing it right now.
That's so sick. That's a good fiance right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. She also enabled me getting she was the one who ordered my board in the first place.
I remember.
That's right.
It was a birthday present. Yeah.
Yeah, she got it for me for Christmas, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I had no idea. I had to get something from the mail. So like when I was getting it, I saw this package. It's like, oh, my boo probably got some supplies that she needed to be mailed in. Like I didn't even read the label. That would have like ruined the Christmas.
Warms my heart.
That would have like ruined the Christmas surprise. But I had like all this other mail stacked on top of it. It's like, amor, here's the mail and everything. She's okay. He's like, did you look at anything? He's like, no, I think you got a package and there's like a bunch of other stuff in there. And then like I went to go change in the bathroom or something. So it was literally in my hand and I had no idea.
And that was probably, I would assume that was before we started doing our like custom packaging and stuff, where the moment you see it, you know where it's from and everything. Yeah.
I saw the evolution too of like, and that made me think about like the evolution of the boxes and like all of the packaging that you had. I think initially you had like a black box that had a printed insert on the label, and I think that was really about it. And now I think you've gotten like much more design heavy on the boxes. Is that correct?
Well, so originally we had these crazy, now looking back on it, they were crazy expensive. These boxes, we just ordered like a 25 pack of these boxes from Amazon that were just like huge. They were massive. They could fit, we could probably put 4 controllers in it, and with the slims you could probably put like 7 of them, right?
Yeah.
And those were really cool because they were just blank boxes. We could do whatever we wanted to them. So we went to Daiso, which is like a Japanese kind of like dollar store. That's kind of they have a lot of them around here. And we got some cool stickers and things like that. And then we ordered one custom stamp with our logo, and we would stamp the boxes and put all these custom, stickers on it. And that was our Gram boxes, right? That was how we distinguish ourselves. And then when the Mainframe Drop happened, we realized these boxes are massive and they cost like twice as much to ship as if we just did a smaller box. And so we had to custom order the right size box. And at that point, Nick had the idea of like, well, instead of, we want to be good for the environment. So instead of putting stuff in the box that like, wasteful paper or whatever, what if we make the box the instructions? And we did the whole inside print, and we still are committed to that. The only reason we've ever had to print instructions was if we weren't doing the boxes. Like Genesis,
Yeah.
we just sold them in the cases, and we just had to slip a little instruction manual in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we're trying to reduce as much like single-use plastic or non-recycled materials as we can when we're shipping,
Certainly.
and that's been informing our design decisions along the way.
Yeah. And on top of that, one thing that's been really fascinating is going to the locals and seeing people who purchased like the city design, mainframe, and they still carry around their controller in the original box that we sent them.
Yeah.
And that was just like so amazing for I think both of us to see, because we're like, wow, like the boxes are being utilized over and over. They're not just being thrown out, right?
Yeah, certainly.
And of course, like those folks are slowly, picking up a case from us so that they don't have to use their, cardboard box anymore. But yeah, it's really good. We want to reduce the amount of packaging because if we can get the box super tight to the device, and there's less bubble wrap or whatever internal packaging as well.
Mhm.
So we're still trying to find ways to streamline that and reduce our carbon footprint, because we don't want to contribute any
Any more
more
than we
than we
have to,
already are.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we're playing with the idea right now of reducing, like removing bubble wrap or any type of what's called void fill in the industry, right? Anything that is not a product that's in the box. We're talking about right now, for future drops, not yet because we haven't figured out how to make it work pricing wise, but we want to include a case so that we can just put the case in the box and ship it like that.
Certainly.
Because the cases are super durable, and they protect the device like crazy. So if we can get that done, we're even closer to removing any type of single use stuff from our devices.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know
and that's
the
actually what we're doing right now on the site. So any of our controllers that are available for purchase right now come with the case.
Ooh.
So the price is a little bit higher, but we would love to get that price point down. But of course, with scale, everything with scale.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I know y'all dropped the new carrying case for that, and I'm like, ooh, I'm getting this at the end of the month because it'd be great to have that. I went to a local not too long ago. I'm like, damn, how am I gonna bring my Gram controller? And I just happened to have a backpack that has like the laptop sleeve, and I originally got it for my Switch because at the time I would take my Switch with me and my GameCube adapter. While I'm waiting for my fiance, like because we live relatively far away from where she worked at the time, it wouldn't make that much sense for one of us to drive down or both of us to come down and then I go back home. So I would just drive down, wait for her. It's only a 4-hour shift, not that bad. And then after, so be playing on my GameCube and then or my Switch with my GameCube controller back and my backpack and everything. Then we go home. So I was like, oh, I got my sleeve. It has the backpack sleeve. It's supposed to be for a laptop, but at least I can use that. So I'm definitely going to have to get myself one of them bags pretty soon. And when I do, I'll be making sure I post it everywhere. It's like, hey, gang, I got mine. Y'all got to get yours now, too.
That's so cool. That's so and one of the reasons with our specific case doesn't have like handles or anything on it is so that it can slide into that laptop section of
Yeah.
a backpack, because since I know Grammy mentioned it earlier, but both of us travel a lot for work. So that's what we do. We just slide it on in with the case on. So hopefully it'll fit your backpack really well.
It will. Trust me, it will.
The thing that I find really funny, and I've talked about this in the Discord, and Nick hates the way I like carry the grams around and stuff. But like the thing is,
like a brute or what?
Yeah, pretty much. When you've touched as many controllers as Nick and I have, they stop meaning as much. I don't mean that in like a ooh, we have so many controllers kind of way, but like everyone.
I'm gonna back you up. They stop feeling as fragile, right?
Yeah,
we get used to it.
It's one of those things where like if like my personal controller, I rarely carry it in a case. I carry it like by the edge, like by the handle, just like that, like just doing that. And Yeah, no, literally, that's I sling it just like I'll carry it like this, or I'll hold it by just like the screws on the corner and just kind of swing it around while I'm walking. And so for me, I kind of never thought about the need for a carrying case, because for me it was always just like, oh, these things are made of aluminum, they're basically indestructible, like it's totally fine. But as time went on, and we realized, no, people want to protect their grams, and people really want to make sure that they're safe, like when they're traveling and stuff. We the cases were in development during the mainframe drop. Like we like
Mm.
the first drop that we ever really did with the slims, we were talking with manufacturers about how we could do the cool custom topographic design and all these kind of things. And it finally came to fruition around the time of Genesis, and it was perfect timing, because if we had tried to ship all those controllers in boxes and do that at Genesis, it would have been twice as much, and we wouldn't have been able to take as many controllers. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
the cases are really cool, and they were a lot of work, but I think it's really paid
Yeah.
off.
And we wanted to release them online like way before Genesis, but we had so much to plan in such a short time.
I
I
imagine.
don't know if we've touched on it, but like we applied for Genesis, 7, 8 months ago, didn't hear back until a month out of the event. And they were just like, hey, you're a vendor now. And we're like, holy shit, we don't have anything built. We didn't have any idea of what we wanted to do for our setup or anything. And we ended up going all out. And I'm glad that we did. But
Yeah,
I'm
that was
telling you,
a.
like, yeah, when we weren't at our 9 to 5 jobs, we were working at, on Graham, and we were just exhausted. So we're
I can
still kind of
imagine.
trying to recharge. It's been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we made 120, I think, controllers in 2 weeks, right? Like leading up to it, and then we shipped them out, and then we had to unload our. If you saw our booth at Genesis, it was fucking massive, and we had a lot of shit that we had to load and unload. And then every night we'd be hanging out with other vendor friends, or hanging out in hotel rooms or whatever. So it was a lot of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially I don't know how many of them you brought, but I remember seeing one of y'all posted the sped up of the oh, we are manually loading up the nanos. And it's just
Yes.
the boom load load, and it was just, oh my god. I can only imagine how that was for not only that, but all the controllers and the new controller y'all had, the FGC as well.
Yeah,
I can imagine that
we
was.
There's so many steps for everything. It's really wild. And I know oftentimes, like, people people have been frustrated with the price point, right, of our controllers, but like there's so many steps. And you know this, Jesse. I mean, you built your own, right? There are so
Mm,
many tiny minutiae, steps that have to go into it, each
mhm,
one. Um, and then the quality control, and it's a beast. It's a beast of a project, but
yeah.
yeah, it's fun though. It's really fun. We had a good time with it though, and I think we learned a lot. We learned a lot about what we want to do for events in the future. So it definitely helps us when we're planning and,
Like stay focused and all that jazz. Yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing, like you were saying, to like the amount of work and the quality control thing too, it's like, well, thank God y'all decided, you know what? Not all of these worked out, but we could still probably sell them. And every time I see that you have B stock ready to go, I think they almost always sell out within like a week or so. So like again,
Yeah.
they'll say that's too much, but they will spend the same amount modding their GameCube controller to.
Yeah, that's literally the reason why I wanted to get into box. So like I had some hand pain, but I'm not gonna lean on that as like, oh, like I needed a box necessarily, because there are people that do truly need them
Mhm.
to be able to play the game that they love. But for me, it really came down to, I have my GCC, and I keep blaming the controller because, oh, I have snapback, or oh, my fob is miscalibrated, or oh, yada yada yada. And I wanted to find something that was consistent, so that if I lose, if I'm still doing bad, if I'm still going 0-2, it's me. It is 100% me. I have to hold that L, and it's always me. And I just think I think there is something to be said. I know there's huge debate, and we say cheater, we say cheater, as a term of endearment in the Discord or whatever. Yeah, but the fundamental truth is that there is a debate raging about whether or not box controllers are cheating or not. And I think the truth of the matter is there are people that need them, like truly need them, people like hacks, people that have like really bad RSIs. And then when we actually, look at how people use the controllers or whatever, it's generally speaking a consistency thing. And at the end of the day, I think you know, if you can make box controllers accessible to people, and they don't have to wait for a pre-order, they don't have to spend $300 or whatever it is, like if you could make it truly accessible to people, then I don't see an issue with a box controller being better or worse than a GameCube controller, as long as it's accessible in the same price bracket as a good GameCube controller.
Mhm.
Which, well, that's part of our goal, is to like really work towards making it as accessible as possible, while maintaining our vision and keeping like the art of the controller still there.
And that's why we went open source as well, right? Because like if you can't, afford for us to assemble it, then here are the instructions for you to do it yourself, right? Because you might be
Mhm.
able to do it cheaper on your own. So we give options, and it's exciting though, because I have quite a history in the gaming side of things. So a little bit of my history, my Bruises lore. I was a Twitch streamer for almost 10 years. I'm a partnered Twitch streamer. And so I've been inside the gaming community in that gaming space for so many years. And one huge thing that I think is really important is peripherals, right? The way that we interface with devices. I'm also just like a huge nerd. So I love the idea of like, let's modernize a 20-year-old children's game, right?
Hell
Like
yeah.
let's see if there's a different way that we can interface. It's kind of just like a VR helmet, right? Like you could play Skyrim. What is it? Like a 15, almost 20-year-old game at this point,
Mhm.
right? Like it's so old at this point, but we are now getting to experience it in a completely sonically different way by wearing a headset,
Yeah,
right? And there's
certainly.
people with those walking pads, right, where they get to like actually run in place, And it's so sick, right? Because I've played thousands of hours of Skyrim, but I've never played it in VR. And I feel like it can bring a new experience to maybe a community that didn't have access to the game back when.
Mhm.
So perhaps it will be bring more people in, so less gatekeepy as well. As that's kind of
Certainly.
like what we're hoping, is that we can kind of bring in a new wave of folks. Because I think it's a little scary. I'm going to speak for myself here with like the melee side of things. When Grammy kind of got into it, I was given a controller and we were playing a little bit, and I got really frustrated because it didn't feel intuitive to me. I'm more of like an FPS PC gamer
Yeah.
myself, so I felt frustrated. But then when I started playing on our rectangles when we were building them, I was like, wait, I get it.
It
You know
makes
what I mean?
sense now,
So
yeah.
yeah, so perhaps it'll be, easier for some folks that are more keyboard minded like
Yeah.
myself. So
There's
yeah.
I forgot there was the video, but the people who make their own, and I think this was for Evo, the people who make their own controllers out of whatever they can. There was literally someone who had a traditional stick, but he practiced a lot on keyboard. So he modified his own stick so that he can transfer to WASD whenever he felt like he couldn't get the inputs just right for any given character matchup or something. So they'll be playing on stick, and then it's like, all right, well, time to abandon stick and go back to WASD. And I'm like, wow, we'll see. Had that person not had the ability to do that kind of thing, it's not always as intuitive to do a quarter circle or the DP input for some folk. So I totally hear
For
and see
sure.
that.
Yeah, and I
Totally.
think that's in that same vein of like, PC gaming. I think for me especially, I'm someone that like I liked Melee. I watched it for probably a couple of years before actually playing it. And I always romanticize the idea of like the perfect controller, right? I think that's what a lot of people in Melee specifically. I'm not too keyed into the ult scene, but in Melee
It's
specifically,
it's there, but it's not as with the with the advancements of what the Switch does as far as Ultimate is concerned, it's not 100% there, but there's a lot of it there. But it's definitely more in Melee than it is in Ultimate.
Yeah, because in Melee, I mean, and it's one of the things that's beautiful about Melee is that there's no buffer system. There's no, there's nothing in Melee to remove you and the inputs that you do on whatever controller you have from the game, right? There's no buffer. There's no, hey, this, I press this button early and yada yada. Like what your character does is exactly what you tell it to do. And if you are not good at telling the character to do something, your character will not move good. And I think that skill floor of Melee is, like Nitin said, that's why it's so expressive, right? And it's beautiful, but it's also like if I'm sitting there constantly thinking that my controller is keeping me from playing my best game, then I'm not going to want to, enjoy it. I'm going to want to save up and spend $200 on a fob. And then I'm going to, oh, this fob is good, but maybe, if I got mouse click Z, maybe that would be better. And oh, if I got digital trigger for my left trigger, maybe that would be, there's always these constant changes. And, the GCC modders, like Nick and I are both friends with a lot of GCC modders, and I don't want to push any of them out. Like, I think there is absolutely still a place for the art that they do and the work that they do. But I'm also of the opinion that like box is a super viable way not only to play Melee but to get into Melee. Like we at Grain we've talked about, there's X number of box players out there. How does that succeed? Well, at that point we just promote Melee as a game, right?
Yeah.
We want to make it, so that Melee is one of the biggest esports because I fucking love Melee. It's my favorite game, like easily my favorite game.
Oh yeah.
And so as we're moving forward, like that's something that we really focused on is like not just, hey, you're a GameCube player, here's a box and here's how it relates to what you already know on GameCube. It's also, here are the instructions for getting it set up in Slippy. Here are the instructions for how to do a wave dash, even if you don't know what a wave dash is yet, right? These concepts of like getting people into the game while also being able to explain how a box works and doing that so that their first controller is a box, I think makes all the difference in terms of how we interact with, GCC versus box versus everything. Because at the end of the day, I don't want to convert anyone. That's not the goal of Graham. The goal is to just get people to play Melee in whatever way they're comfortable with. And that's why, we use the word cheater because it's funny and it's hilarious, right? But
we're reclaiming it. We're taking it back. We're reclaiming it. We're making it a good thing.
Make
That's like our goal. Yes, exactly. And honestly, to
it.
piggyback, yeah, and to piggyback on what Grammy was saying is that like, not only bringing people in that maybe it's their first time experiencing these games, but also like allowing the community to support each other. So one thing that we've really tried within our community is like our FAQ has so many fantastic community developers and contributors. I know Nitin has posted some awesome stuff in our Discord. There's so many of y'all that have I mean, Jesse, you yourself, you're one of the co-writers of a few of our articles inside of our Discord, right? So that when people are coming for answers and they have questions, there's somebody there that might be able to either even point you in the right direction or they might have the answer for you. So we're trying to build this, everyone is a thought leader within the space, right? We want to trust your input. So if somebody comes in with a ton of DIY knowledge, feel free to share it. You're not required to, but we want to foster and also empower that. Right? We want to give y'all the tools and the space to say, hey, I know what I'm talking about. I want to help, right? And so that's kind of something that we're trying to foster as well, for sure.
And that's like our open source channel for the last like month has been commandeered by AVTOM or Avtom. I don't know how to pronounce it, but they took the Prism, which
the Prism,
released it, and they're making a fight stick out of it.
Yep.
And it's the coolest fucking project in the world. And it's something that we of course thought about, FGC Prism and everything like that, but like we didn't know if we really wanted to go for that. They're hard to ship. They take a long time to make, like all of this stuff. And to see the community say, oh, this isn't there, but the framework is there, the frame and the panel designs and everything is there. Let me try to make one myself. And Tom learned Illustrator for the explicit purpose of making this controller. That to me is beyond inspiring to know that there are people out there that like truly love what we're doing enough to like, hey, I want to make this controller. How do we get started? And they just can follow the GitHub or whatever and do it. That to me is a success story. That's I think the point of Graham is to get people to be more creative in a lot of ways, to get people to really see what they're doing and say, I want it like this though, and decide that that's what they want and go out and make it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the whole idea of like being that reservoir where all this knowledge can just be shared and expanded upon. You don't get to, honestly, y'all don't get to the point where you're on now had it not been for someone producing it for. You iterate on the things that you see before you till eventually you get to the thing that you're at right now. There's a constant, there's that saying where there's nothing new under the sun. If there's never been an original thought, everything that you have, everything you've seen is a version of something that already existed. And maybe you and even proof with like, yo, we're thinking about the NFGZ Prism, and someone said, God damn it, let's do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I not to say anything negative, but I think a lot of other people that do this kind of stuff are with the mindset of, oh, we need to be first to market with XYZ. We need to make the first controller that does X. We need to do XYZ. And like, I understand that from a business perspective, right? But at the end of the day, our goal is to make cool shit. And if we make cool shit, awesome. If someone in our community takes what we've done and makes cooler shit, that's
just like you, Jesse, like what you did with yours, like that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, because like the fact that you can 3D print your frame in whatever color you want, that's something that like we right now are working on figuring out how to do frames in different colors and stuff like that. But the fact that there are people out there that's like, oh, well, I can only get the frame in black or clear. Okay, well, I'll just 3D print my own. And it works and it's perfect and it fits the controller. And that just makes me happy just seeing that in terms of the way that you can interact with the ideas behind Graham.
Yeah,
and
certainly.
make cool.
Like one of the things I found out, like it took me, I stopped using the red because I really wanted to work on the luminous, so the glow in the dark filament. And then when I finally got a successful print, it took me a while. I was like, you know what? Let me just keep it how it is. And I realized it was actually too small. I was like, oh no, I need to upscale it a little bit. And in case you're wondering, anybody watching, if you have your 3D printer and you take their Gram file, upscale it to 101%, and that will be exactly what you need. And they will fit just fine. It will be exactly perfect. This right here is the old frame I got printed from, I forgot the printing service you all recommended in the GitHub. It is
JLC, probably.
Yes. It is exactly to scale as
Nice.
exactly the scale right there. So upscale it to 101% in case you're wondering. In case you have a 3D printer that can do that big of a print, now you know.
That's so sick. That's so cool. That's magic.
Yeah, again, it is also some form of wizardry that, like, I also thought the same thing for 3D printers, and I'm partaking of it again, and mostly because my fiance said, "Hey, you've been thinking about this for a lot. You're talking about your controller a lot, and all that jazz." So, also, it helps if you have a spending enabling fiance like I do, and
that's one of the reasons that Graham is so successful, is that we are both the spending enabling fiance.
Yeah. Just like, hey, do you want to run a micro center? Yeah, of course I want to run a micro center. Like, what do you mean?
30 rolls of filament? Yeah, we need 35.
We literally went to like the only California micro center so we could get the 3D printer, and we got it on sale. So we bought like 5 or 6 different colors of filament, and also got paid for the 2 years, and it was still cheaper than if I would have bought the printer at full price. Again, I have Amor, I love you. You are my enabler. I am your enabler as well. That's why you have all the stuff that you need to do your sublimations, and we got you your Cricut, and eventually she's going to get an acrylic cutter. So she wants to invest in that, because I have an idea for something that I want to do, and
I think I see the vision, if it's what I'm thinking.
yeah, I have an idea what I want to do. And she's like, Amor, let's do this. She's been wanting an acrylic cutter anyway, and she found one that can cut different color acrylic and not just only clear acrylic. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And I think we're probably gonna get it within like the next month or two. So that's neither here nor there.
That's modern day romance.
Yes.
Go ahead, Grammy. I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off.
I wanted to shout out in the chat Granola Arcade, who is kind of in the same space that we are, but they primarily work with like fight sticks and like wireless controllers.
I've seen some of their stuff, and they got a shout out from Sajam. I saw your stuff there. That's pretty awesome. I was talking to somebody about it.
Their raindrop idea,
yes,
like the whole idea that they had of printing a case vertically and making it shaped like a raindrop so that there's no overhangs, there's no supports. That concept is so cool and unique, and that's the kind of thing that I think, in my head, it's like, damn, I wish I had thought of that kind of. But at the same time, the fact that it even exists is a testament to just how cool the grassroots, like, open source community is, because now someone like Granola can make a Smash version of that if they choose to, right? And now there's a really, like, the
which
easiest
you should.
to print. You should do that, Granola. I would love that. I'd buy one. Or I'd make one probably on our printer. But yeah, that's like in my heart of hearts, it makes me so happy to see so many people that are able to contribute to the collective, like, hey, these either A, in the Smash scene, Nintendo doesn't really fuck with us, right? And there's no first party controllers that do what we want to do. So we're going to make it ourselves. We're going to make the fob. We're going to do XYZ. Same goes for when we're talking about box controllers, right? No large companies have taken on the task of making these controllers and making them at a rate that is, hey, we will never be out of stock or whatever. So people like Granola that like make them as they come, I think are really important to the scene as a whole. And I take a lot of inspiration from Granola. I just really like him, and I want to give him a shout out.
Oh, we actually have a question. Someone has a question in the chat. This looks like they said they were at your booth at Genesis, didn't have time to chat. Currently have a Smashbox, but absolutely loved how they can change and customize the individual buttons. Saw that they have different presets, but didn't allow didn't show them what was it about blah, 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 blah. For example, what is a button mapping for the FGC selection for the Slim? Oh,
yeah.
So,
to give you a little support live on air, the FGC uses GP2040. So it uses a different
are you talking
firmware.
about this one or your alt zones? Because tell me what to press, and I can show them.
So it's actually the different ones, the FGC, the fighting game one. But yeah, like it has an open source web configurator. Hop into the Discord and we can chat a little bit more about it for sure. I think Discord will be able to send you some links and stuff to help out.
Which if I haven't put it in the description, I will put it in the description later. Really get in there and have a great time with everything they have in there.
For sure. And also I just linked you directly to the visual instructional as to what you're exactly asking for, buddy. So check it out. There's some good info in there.
Yeah. All right. So I kind of want to ask now, and like I don't know if we touched on it. I think we might have touched on it a little bit, but like, what brought y'all to Smash in the first place? Like, was it the dock? Was it Slippy era? Was it, hey, I'm going to go to this thing? You remember playing Melee when we were kids, or what was it? What brought you to Smash? And it looks like Melee specifically in the first place.
Yeah, so I brought Nick to Smash. I'll say that. I get to take credit for that. But for me, I had heard about Melee as like a competitive. Like, I played it when I was like a little kid, right? And then I had heard, Smash for the GameCube, like that has a huge competitive scene, right? And I had seen like ads for like the original low tier and stuff on like Twitter and things like that. I was really into Rocket League at the time. That was like my main game. And what ended up happening was I think it was in like late 2019, I found Ludwig and watched a lot of Ludwig streams and things like that. And I noticed Ludwig was, talking about these big people that I'd heard of, Hungrybox, Mango, things like that, that were like big streamers that I'd heard of before or whatever. And so that's what got me into like watching Melee and like understanding what it is exactly the game is about and how much more complicated it was than I thought it was when I was a kid, And yeah, and then what got me into wanting to actually play it was rollback, right? Slippy rollback. I saw that had come out, and I was like, oh well, everyone's already really good on it, but as time went on, I realized that the only way to get good is to start playing, and so I decided to go to the local and I met a lot of really cool people at the local that kind of kept me playing, right? I can sit here and be like, oh, I just wanted to grind and get better at the game, but really the thing that kept me coming back was the company and the people that I was hanging out with. And so yeah, that was for me the big thing.
For sure. And I just piggybacked on it, so that's why I'm here.
I'm gonna assume that like most people 0-2 at your first tournament, just like, or no.
Yeah, at my first one. Oh, at like my fourth one, I got lucky and got a set, and I went 1-2. And on GCC, let it be known, before any of the DFW Melee people come from my head. When I was on GCC, I was a 1-2er. I was consistently a 1-2er. Now I don't play as much as I used to because we're doing the Gram stuff, and I'm an 0-2er again. But when things free up, I am going to go back and I'm gonna get back to my 1-2er status.
That's right.
And no one will be able to make fun of me anymore.
There you go.
Wait a minute. Is that the Heart Hunter in
Heart Hunter,
chat?
shut up. I see your comment. I see it. That's brutal. Don't do this to
me. Which is funny because I put this in the Discord as well. I mentioned it earlier. I brought my Gram, but I play mostly on GameCube anyway. So I brought my controller. I won my first set, won it 2-0. Got my second set, put me on stream, got decimated, and I ended up going 1-2. That was the first time I had gone 1-2, and that was just because I had my Gram in my backpack. So I'm gonna say that's the reason why I went 1-2. Even though I never actually used it.
The thought that you could shoot at any time, but you're being honorable and you're not going to.
Exactly.
That'll do it.
Exactly. Except for the fact that I'm trying to play Kazuya on a rectangle, which is the most cheating thing you can do possible. You thought cheating was bad playing Fox on box. Try playing box Kazuya. The fact that I can do consistent electrics and I'm practicing the 0 to deaths on it, and I think I probably put maybe a total of like 8 hours onto it, and oh yes, that's
it's so funny. I had no idea that Ultimate players played on box. When we first started Gram, I was thinking it was just Melee players, but as of right now, over half of our like people in our Discord are Ultimate players. And there's all this conversation about Electric Wind Godfist and Box Kazuya and all this tech that you can do.
Yeah.
And I just sit there like I had no idea this was even possible. Like I didn't know that people played on box and Ultimate. So
yeah,
it's just cool that it's kind of taken on a life of its own in that sense,
Yeah, I think I tried changing to the Ultimate set preset that you have on the controller, and I realize it doesn't work the same way. So in order for me to play Kazuya or to play Smash properly, I can't use Ultimate. I have to use original melee settings, but specifically, I think it's called X input, which you have it so that up is actually in the WASD formation, because that's what felt natural to me. And when I would play Terry, as I was learning, just to kind of get a good feel for it, trying to do the input for Rising Tackle, his up B, rather than just I don't know, just pinky for up just doesn't feel right. So being able to do that switch it up, that's what really helped me out. And that's also helped me greatly learn that Kazuya stuff. Who knew, if you were playing an FGC character in Smash Brothers, using a leverless style GameCube controller was also the way.
Yeah.
It's easier to perform your quarter circles and stuff,
Yeah. No, like that's what I'm saying. The DP inputs, the quarter circles, the backwards quarter circles. I forgot what it's called. I think it's called the crescent moon, where you have to start forward and then go reverse, which is it's more of a thing in King of Fighters, I think, than it is in more traditional fighting games. But to do that to get Power Geyser, then there's the double quarter circle for Buster Wolf and all that jazz. All those way easier, much more consistent on this type of controller, which I haven't played on this one yet because most of my training was on that cardboard stuff. Good times.
So sick.
So what we brought out your or we kind of talked about your fighting your FGC, the Gram FGC, your brand new leverless, and there was talk of getting your the cases. Do you have a lot of plans for what's going on forward next? Do you have more grand ideas, secret things that you are willing to talk about, or you still don't know what is that next evolution as of yet?
I'm going to leave this one to Nick, because if I say too much, I'll get in trouble. So I'll leave this one to Nick.
No, it's fine. We're just online with like 10 people watching. You're okay. No one can no one can like go back and screen record this and put it on Twitter.
There's no ops here. No,
exactly.
I know Nitin has asked twice in the chat about next design work, and like I guess that's where I'll start. So like essentially, like we always have things that we are trying to conceptualize, right? Like we have a huge list of things that we've either just like been talking about in passing or like have started on, right? Like we have our own internal roadmap of different things that we're working on. For instance, with our FGC, we sold out entirely for Genesis, which
I imagine that was going to be the case.
No idea. We honestly didn't know. We felt like it was going to be a toss-up. We really did. We had no idea.
To have some to bring home at the very least, like a couple, like the demo units at the very least. And no, we sold those.
Apparently not.
Yeah, everyone wanted to buy the demo units too. Like there were people that were just like begging. So we're like, oh my gosh, okay, fine. And it worked, but that kind of puts us back at the drawing board because our entire process has to restart. So for instance, like the first thing that we always want to do is, what are we trying to evoke? Like what sort of like emotion within our community? Like what time of year is it even, right? Like there's so many things that we consider when we go into our design phase. So for instance, with the FGCs, since we don't have any stock at all, we have to create a new design. And we created a poll in the Discord, and overwhelmingly the community wants a new design. They want something fresh. They don't want one of the regurgitated designs that we created on the Smash controller side. So that kind of opens up a world of options for us. Of course, we're still really limited to just our black and white designs. We're still wanting to iterate on that. I know that the community has pushed that they're like, we want color, we want, we want more options, and we do too. It's just since we don't do pre-orders, right? So I just kind of want to put a few things into perspective when it comes to design and manufacturing.
Please.
So pre-orders are absolutely phenomenal when the follow through happens because you get that funding and you can put it towards one type of manufacturer or spread it across different means so that you can make something happen, right?
Mhm.
But since all of the money that we spend it up front, it's our money. Like we are not asking y'all to pay ahead or anything. We front the money first. We get it sourced. We create it. We manufacture it. We assemble it here in Dallas by hand, right? And then we sell it. So we don't have that like mass funding that some of our competitors have when they do pre-orders, right? Because they have bulk money to use. And we don't have that, right? And that's okay because we really enjoy this method because it feels more it feels like it's easier for us to follow through, if that makes sense, because we're not on your timeline, we're kind of on our timeline, and then those that are ready to make a purchase with us can check out, right? And they get their item immediately. But that's one of the big hurdles with color, is that if we were to create panels with different colors, we would have to front that cost,
Mhm.
right, to get it going, and it would be a lot. So, but it's definitely in the pipeline. Obviously, as we scale, I think things will become more possible. So, but yeah, we do have some designs, and perhaps we will be teasing them next week or the week after in the Discord, but those of y'all that know already know that we do a lot of that in the Discord. We'll post some little little things behind the scenes that we're working on. So you might see a little tidbit or two if you look closely, but we'll see. But I hope
No,
that was a good answer, Grammy. If you want to jump in and say anything else on that.
Hop
no,
into
I think
Discord
that's
to find out what it is.
get the secret sauce. No, but yeah, I agree with everything Nick just said. I think the the we came into the industry because of pre-orders, right? Because we were waiting for designs or because we couldn't get them, and it would just feel a little disingenuous for us to be like, oh, you want a purple controller? Because that's the number one. Like 3 or 4 different people have been like, can you make something with purple in the design? Can you do
Purple
something
is
with
like the color, so that's probably
yeah,
going to be our next color move
Real
for
so
sure.
quick, now that you say that, I have some purple filament for myself. I'm probably gonna my next. I'm gonna make like 3 more of the luminous right here. But then I'm gonna, after I make that and a set of buttons, I am moving on to translucent purple. So I'm gonna have a translucent purple frame
yeah,
with translucent purple buttons. And real quick, speaking of purple, the switches I
you got the
got
perp, you got the
I
are
perp.
saw that. I thought I saw purple. That is so sick.
I got the purple. I got the purple, but purple keycaps or keys. So purple,
Yeah,
I can understand why it's the
and
number
that's
one
the thing, right?
requested.
With purple, it's an awesome color, and there are people that like it. But we're also, as Nick has pointed out, we're scaling to a point where, like, we are 2 people working on these controllers, and we are also 2 people that are reinvesting almost all of the money from Graham back into the project
Yeah,
itself,
we
right?
don't
So
pay ourselves. So this is
yeah,
just we're just
which is
building the
why
project.
it's why we still work full-time jobs. It's why we're still working in our garage, is that we don't have the capital right now to like really build up something like crazy. But in that same vein, we do want to, get into like full color designs. We've had so many people ask about, doing a color design, and we're kind of in this point where we've taken the role of like, hey, we we need to trust our vision and where we're going with as a company, and where we're going with design and things like that. And so doing these colorful panels are in the roadmap, but it's just we need to make sure that by the time that we do those, that we have either the capital or the interest in all of these different colors
Mm-hmm.
to say, hey, we can order enough of this color, this color, this color, this color, this color
Oh yeah,
to make it so that we don't lose. I mean, just to be quite frank with you, the numbers on some of the manufacturing are astounding, right? They're
I
to
can
the level
imagine.
where, as normal human beings that don't run a business, both Nick and I were a little freaked out looking at some of the numbers of how much it all costs, but it makes sense as time goes on, where it's like, oh, you need to spend money to make money. But that's like the buttons are the first big piece where we've decided like, hey, this is a piece that we've got the injection mold, which if you don't know about injection molds, they're really stupidly expensive to make the molds, But once you make the mold, you have the mold for a long time, and the buttons are really cheap to make with it. But now that we have the mold, we can do a bunch of different colors as long as we are sure that we can sell like a couple thousand of each color, right?
And
So
see,
that's
that was another shock for us as well, because when we did our first batch
yeah,
of the V2 injection molds, I don't know if you were there, Jesse. I believe you were around for that. It was like right
Yeah.
around Christmas time, and we released them, and we wanted to upgrade everybody for free, just pay shipping and handling, which was an incredible success
Yeah.
because
I
we ran
saw.
out. We ran out of the buttons.
There was none
And
left.
we weren't expecting it, and so we put in like a rush order for more, and that took a couple more weeks to go through. But yeah, like Grammy was saying, it's more money up front, and I know Granola also mentioned it as well. Like, how is that going, and is it more money up front, but is it worth it type of deal? And I'd say yes. What do you think, Grammy?
I mean, we're just you want some realty, and Nick, you don't get mad at me for sharing this part. We're working on injection molding frames right now, right? Like injection molding, once you're at the scale that Graham is at, it is just the natural, like this is what it makes sense to
It's
do,
just the
right?
progression of where
Yeah,
everything will end up. Yeah.
it costs us a crazy amount. I mean, you've ordered, 3D printed frames, right? It's our manufacturer is pretty comparable to JLC in terms of
Yeah.
pricing. So you know how much it costs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we're talking about, we're putting the money up front whenever we do a drop of, 250. Imagine the cost of making that controller times 250.
Mm-hmm.
That's money from our bank accounts that we're having to put forward into Graham, right?
Certainly.
And we've been lucky enough that they've always sold out, and we get the money back, right? But at the same time, for colors, right, if we order 1,000 purple frames and they cost us that much, then all of a sudden there's a big risk on our
Mm-hmm.
side of, if these don't sell, we're in the hole for tens of thousands of dollars. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's kind of where, if we injection mold frames, it becomes a lot less scary to do, big batches of multiple colors and do different materials and things like that. And that's kind of where we want to take the company, because the buttons have been incredibly consistent and
Mm-hmm.
incredible. We've got nothing but positive feedback on them, and that was the biggest issue with Graham controllers. Anyone that bought a Graham before we did the V2s, that was the only thing that was like a consistent issue. There was never really any QA issues or anything like that. There'd be one or two like, hey, it got damaged in shipping or whatever, but the buttons falling off was a huge problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we solved that with injection molding. And I think we can do the same thing with frames,
Mhm.
with, injection molded parts are stronger, that you can drop it off a building and it won't break, that kind of stuff. And so if we can get to that point with frames, or with any number of pieces, all of a sudden we're reducing the cost of each controller, right?
Mm-hmm.
Overall, we're and we, as I don't know how long you've been in the Graham community, but we've dropped the price significantly since when we started, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of the roadmap, is to make them more accessible price wise. Either the models that we currently have, or releasing new models that are designed to be, entry level into the box space, right?
Yeah.
So we're we're kind of looking at everything, and we're looking at all of the ways that we can spend money to push the project forward. And injection molding right now is like our biggest expense, but it is also such an important expense once you get to our scale.
Yeah, I do
Absolutely.
see that, like, and I think, and maybe it's just because you've built up so much will so quickly. And I think I saw you all established, that you all established a year ago, but the amount of goodwill that you established through the quality of product, the effort into design, into all of that, allows you to kind of take your time in between. And when you only have, a couple hundred sets of buttons, or like a handful of controllers in the first place, people get hungry for that because it exists. And like you said, you don't have to go out of your way, drop money on something that hasn't appeared yet. It's
Yeah.
You actually don't have it on hand while you're paying for it. It's like it can end up being like a Tesla where you buy a Tesla, you don't see it for almost a year until it finally shows up at your place. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's so wild though, because between the drops, between things going live, like we are doing so much behind the scenes. Like Grammy and I, like that's when we're ordering, we are building, we are getting marketing and promotional content out, we are updating our FAQ articles. There's so many things that we're editing on the website and trying to improve, and it's just this constant like living creature that we're like taking care of. It's kind of like having a baby, right? Like we're like nursing it and teaching it how to how to like behave and stuff, and it's yeah, it's wild. And we are so excited to have more colors, more options, because that's one thing on top of the injection molding that I think is like important to like touch on, is that we want our users from even our earliest mainframe drop that we had this summer, we want all of y'all to be able to come back to the website and see new things that you can purchase or create on your own through our GitHub open source projects. And you can mod your device, right? We want to kind of future proof as much as we can, right? I mean, there's going to be innovation that will eventually change the layout or something, right, way down the line. But for right now, we want to make sure that y'all can keep upgrading as we do. And there's a few design elements I don't know how much Grammy wants to talk about, but changing out your color frame, changing out the color of your buttons. We just recently swapped all of our switches from the chalk reds to the Kale Chalk Red Pros, right? So all of the new devices that are being purchased through us will come with the Pros loaded on it, right? But we encourage continuous evolution. We don't want anybody to feel stuck or to feel like they have an obsolete device. At least not too quickly. We want to give y'all quite a few years of enjoyment, hopefully forever. I mean, I'd love to see people using like the Graham mainframe 20 years from now. That would just tickle me. So
I mean, going that way and the how modular you can make things, and that's part of the conscious effort of being able to, again, future proof your purchase is great. And like not having to go with, oh, it only works with these types of this particular switch because it's proprietarily made or anything. Like I have right here to my side some more switches. I've lost a handful. As I was putting my controller back together, I realized I bent one of the pins. I'm like, oh no, it got crushed. But that was just me not paying attention. But I thankfully had that right there. But having those kinds of things in mind really does, like I said, enhance the longevity of your projects, and being able to have a early version of it and still being able to find that compatibility down the line with the most recent version of what you have going on. Even like as simple as, oh, you know what? I want to have new panels. I'm sure like a lot of people's like, I love this thing, but I think I need to finally upgrade. 3 years down the line, there's a new design that they've been eyeballing since the very beginning. And instead of getting a whole new controller, they just buy the top or the bottom or both of them. And there you go. It's as if you have a brand new controller.
Well, so that's actually okay. So full disclosure, I'm gonna say this for your chat. Nitin, I know you're in here. Whatever you do, do not screenshot this and put it in the Discord. The Discord is the one place we have.
Well, this video is gonna live on YouTube, so
wait, hold up. Wait, I think I can. Boom. Can I turn chat off? Did I turn it off? No, I didn't. No.
No, you're good.
No.
No, it's fine. But so one of the things I would say the biggest innovation, like the biggest change, I don't want to sound too pretentious. The biggest change.
No,
right?
it's an innovation iteration. You can use the proper language.
Yeah, iteration. I guess that's a better term. There is okay. So, and this was a thing from the beginning that people talked about, but Nick and I really like the screws on the top. Right, that's something that we when we first started Graham, We are both
Yeah.
very industrial people. We wanted people to. There's a quote from the CEO of Nothing, which is the phone company that they
Mhm.
make like the clear phones where you can see all the components inside. There's a quote from the CEO where he says, "We want people to engage with the products knowing how they're made, right? Knowing how they're held together, understanding what goes into the product." And so the screws and the weld nuts have always been like part of the grand design, like even from the earliest prototypes, right? The weld nuts on the back, yeah. And
I have a
now,
slightly different version if you want to see that.
yeah. Oh, those
Ooh,
are
I like
tiny.
yours. I like that.
Those seem smaller. Those are nice. And
Very
I
Yeah.
like
nice.
the flatter screws as well, it looks
Mhm.
like.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
and so that's always been part of our design, like ethos is like we want to do that. But one thing that we recognize about the controllers is that that's very polarizing to some people. And as we're scaling and trying to maintain, the scale of like, hey, we need to be able to make these quickly and we need to be able to make them in a way where people can buy them and easily modify them. That's what we're working on. So that's actually my personal controller. And this is what we
Hey.
call the Slim 4 is the current working title of it, and it is
Hey
no screws
yo.
on top. If you want to show the back, it's all screwed in with smaller screws on the back,
Hey
completely
yo.
flush, and it's going to have a silicone pad on the bottom, an anti-slip pad. And
Ooh.
so we're working on this right now. We literally have placed the orders for them. We're going through with this. I don't know when it's going to release, and I don't want to promise anything. But the idea here is that, and the important thing to take away here is that this is still a Slim. It uses the same frame as your current Slim. It uses the same switches, same PCB, same everything. But the cool part is, with your current controller, for instance,
Mhm.
even though these are definitely not something that are very easy to make on your own in like an open source, like 3D print kind of sense, you can pick these up from our website when the time comes and put them on your current controller. So if you
Mm.
want the completely clean, no screws look, you can go for that, or you can do the full DIY route with the screws. And so what we're doing there is I would like to think we are doing a bit more value add for someone that wants to purchase one of our controllers because it's going
Mhm.
to have this, cool screwless design over someone that wants to make their own with the screws. We're still going to open source all the files to make the
Yeah.
screwless version, but it's just a lot more expensive for a person to make one of the screwless.
Mhm.
But I think that's the idea. Like in our hearts, we want to make sure that we're supporting, because this will be compatible with people that bought a mainframe, right? If you bought a
Yeah.
mainframe a year ago, you can take that mainframe, unscrew it, and throw the screwless panels on, and you're good to go. And we can do that with no design, right? Like you saw there, where it has nothing on it, or we can do that with our current designs. And importantly, because there are no holes in this, we can actually print UV print full color onto these. So,
Mm.
like, just to give you I know we're getting a little in the weeds here, but just to give you an idea of kind of, you're talking about the roadmap, how far ahead we think. This is something that we can see taking us for the next year or two, where we can sell a lot more because it's a little bit more accessible. We can drop the price because if we buy, you know, all black like that with no design on it, we can buy 1,000 of them and be sure that they're going to sell rather than having to buy 1,000 of one design and hoping that it'll sell.
Mm.
So it just gives us a little bit more leeway, and I think that's going to be the kind of future of Graham that a lot of people want to know about. This is kind of the direction that we're headed.
And we see Nitin in the chat. Please do it for FGCs as well.
Oh, absolutely. Right now, FGC is tough because it's a whole separate device that we have to support and we have to do XYZ with.
Mhm.
But as we fully expect FGC to eventually overtake Smash in terms of how many we sell because it's just so much of a bigger industry.
Certainly.
But we're always going to have our Smash roots and we're always going to do Smash first. That's just in
Yeah.
my heart of hearts. That's how I've always thought about it.
For
um,
sure. So
if
like, oh, I'm sorry.
no, go
Just
ahead.
and since we, started first with the Smash controllers in particular, those are the controllers that will most likely get the more innovated, uh, upgraded pieces first, and then we'll roll it out for FGC. But it really just depends on timeline and when we get everything going. But Yeah, hopefully we can spread the love across both devices.
If I can recommend any design. You have to have some really good wild style or New York or LA style or Chicano style graffiti. I really hope to see that someday.
So I
Uh,
actually, I'll
uh,
DM you a photo when we were doing Low Tier City. I don't know if you've seen the branding for Low Tier City, but it's bright pink and yellow and like
yeah.
cyan blue, and it's a bunch of graffiti and like drawings and scribbles and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And that was our original design for the event exclusive before we did the city. Our
Mm-hmm.
original design was going to be some crazy throws all over the thing that
Yeah.
said Grant in a bunch of different like graffiti texts, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it just we couldn't get it to look the way we
Just right.
wanted to in time, and it was a lot of work to get them ordered and printed in the way we wanted. So yeah,
Do we have that print test? Is that on your desk here by chance?
no, it's down in the shop.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. I was gonna show y'all the print test of like our abilities of color, but I guess we'll
If
save that for
in a
another time.
little bit, I may run down and grab it.
um, I know y'all said y'all have a fairly hard out in about another half hour. I want to thank you for taking your time. I know it's a little bit later on your end than it is here on my end. I want to kind of cap it right here because I have a little segment I do at the end. And for some reason, this one takes a very long time as well. And even though it's just very simple, is there any kind of closing thoughts, any kind of things you want to tease in addition to the new panels that we have for this before we kind of close here and kind of move on to the very last thing?
Nick, anything there?
Honestly, Jesse, just thank you so much for bringing us on, and not only that, the incredible build video that you released here on YouTube
Thank you.
of building your gram. Like, I really cannot explain how, like, honestly, I'm gonna be real emotional it made us. I think we were like in a parking lot, like getting groceries. It was like late at night when you had posted it, and we were like both teary eyed. Like, we were just like, holy smokes, this is the coolest thing we've ever seen in our community thus far. And we were just blown away. So, thank you so much for not only inviting us onto your live stream, but also creating epic content with what we built. Like, it's just so cool to see what you're creating, and
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see what you do next.
Well, you all know, but we're not going to talk about that until it happens.
Yeah.
The only things I want to say in closing: long live Melee. I I will always love Melee, and it is the best game in the world. If you're an Ultimate player and you've never tried Melee, I highly recommend it. If
Which
you're
is
an FGC
kind of hard
player,
to see these days. A lot of them do play Melee.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of people play
Everyone wants to return to Melee. That's why HDR exists. So just
I love HDR. Yeah, I really appreciate you having us on, and I hope that we can continue to bring this kind of stuff out of the community. We really want to continue to be able to be this force of like, hey, how can we make this better all the time, right? How can we keep doing this and keep making it better? And I'm really glad that we've found so many people that think like us and want the same things that we do.
what happened? What happened? Hold on. Something turned out wrong. Somehow there we go. OBS and then clicking something went weird. Yes. I do want to see what we all push out in the future. Again, I'm really hoping to see a really good graffiti design. Being from LA and I see a lot of like great stuff, and specifically I see a lot of Chicano graffiti and obviously gang graffiti, but that's a whole separate thing. So I really hope to see something like that in the future, and I really will go out of my way, hopefully, to get maybe some of those panels, even though I really like the clear look so you can actually see the PCB itself. So thank you for all that time. I'm really excited to see what the community will put out. Thank you for again for taking a huge chunk of time. I said we were going to try to do an hour and a half, and we're almost heading to 2 hours. And this last part's probably going to take it over to 2.5 hours. Before we close out everything, I like to do this thing. We did it from the very first one to shout out to Oates, formerly of Major Zine. A lot of people know who he is. Yeah. So you know Oates, right? Exactly. And Major. It's awesome.
Major Zine, yeah.
Exactly. For our very first one live that I did, we ended it out by doing a rapid fire 10 questions, whatever it is you want to say, whatever it is you want to ask, whatever it is you want to ask me, there is literally almost nothing that will be off of limits, unless it's something that is horrendously out of pocket, which I don't expect any of us to to do that. So what I want to know, gang, tell me heads or tails of whether or not you want to start first, and I'll flip it on screen. What y'all want to decide?
Tails.
Tails? All right.
Tails never fails, baby.
All right. Let's flip again. And we got tails. All right. Do you want to ask first? Did you want to ask first, or did you want to be asked first?
I think be asked first. Probably.
Yeah, ask us.
I want to set the tone before I ask something too crazy and be like, "Whoa, man, we're just gonna ask about like pets or something."
I don't know. To be fair, one of my questions was, if you were to be forced into shock therapy or immersive therapy, which one of your fears would actually break you and not solve it? And someone said bees. So.
I don't even know what my answer to that would
be. Well, good thing you don't have to think about it, because that wasn't one of my questions. So I'm gonna start with question number 1. If you had a chance to go with one mainstream brand as the official sponsor for one of your controllers, what brand would it be?
I have one. I'm sure we have the same one. Do we have the same one?
The same one. You say it.
Do they count as a mainstream brand? I guess they do, right?
Bing?
I don't know in this space if we're thinking of the same one.
So I'll say the you say the one that we're both thinking, and then I'll say a different one.
Okay, I would say Teenage Engineering. I would love to be partnered with them. And that's mainly because of like our music roots, and I think we align with their design and the way that they market and create their products.
And then for like a mainstream brand, like a big brand, I would love to do something with like because we're both designers first, and like the thought for me is that our controllers are art first and then functional second, right? Like the design is the most important part for us. And so for me, I would say something like, I would love to do an IKEA like collab where we have some kind of like very modern Swedish inspired stuff. And I'm Nick and I have talked about it. We don't want to stop at controllers, right? We want to be able to do like, house decor and other technology and music stuff eventually, right? And so working with IKEA would kind of speed up that process, because we could do some like, hey, here's like a cool chair, or here's like a cool, something like that. That'd be really fun.
What's the name of those like miniature synthesizers that look like a little tiny calculator?
The pocket
operator.
Yes.
Those are from Teenage Engineering.
Yes. So, I can totally see that. That's awesome. By the way, do you happen to have any of them?
I have one in my. Hold on.
Oh.
Do you have it in your office? Yeah. So up here, you can't really see it behind me, but we have our music set up here. But we have our one of our synth racks that we created. We have the new I think it's called the OPZ, and then I have my OP1 just sitting over there. You can't really see it from here, but I love synths. We're a huge synth family. So, but yeah, that's one of the pocket operators.
Ayo.
Shout out to which is one of our friends who gifted that to Grammy for his birthday back in December. It was really nice. Very nice gift.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Question 2. Oh, continue. You were
Do
gonna say.
do we ask you a question?
I'm gonna do 10 in a row. 10
Oh,
in a
okay,
row.
perfect.
10 in a row. Okay. Question 2. Monitor melee. Yay or nay?
Versus CRT.
No, not versus CRT. Just monitor melee. Yay or nay?
Oof. I'm gonna make some people mad. I'm gonna make some people mad here. So while I think it is very romantic and fun to play melee on a CRT, it is so fucking impractical to carry around a CRT. And like a great example is with us going to these events and selling controllers at these booths, right? I have this 21-inch beautiful CRT monitor, right? It's like a 480p, like 480 progressive, like perfect monitor.
Ooh.
And for me, I'm very much of the mindset of like that is the perfect way to play melee. But when monitors nowadays are like 99.9% of the way there,
Mm-hmm.
like I think it doesn't make sense to haul a CRT around all the time when you can just get like we use these little portable thin monitors now, 120 frames per second, really bright, really crisp, really fast refresh time. So I'm of the opinion that at this point it doesn't really matter. It's down to personal preference. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Makes sense. I mean, to be fair, no one is actually streaming off of a CRT anymore.
Yeah. So I will say, I forgot who we were talking to someone at an event that was telling us that like if you run Slippy with faster melee, right? Like the standard way that people run Slippy nowadays, if you run Slippy through a converter into a PC CRT, that is the best way to play melee. Like it is so fast and so good. But that's so much work. And then I have to have a CRT on my desk that I also work at, like it's annoying.
Well, also those Dell CRTs are super hard to come by. I saw one when we were recycling one of our old TVs that like just doesn't turn on anymore, and I was this close to trying to rescue it until I saw they cut a bunch of cables and made it inoperable. I was like, well, there goes that. All right. What's your favorite instrument or piece of musical equipment that you own currently?
Ooh, that's a great question. I mean, for nostalgia reasons, I would say the OP1 for me because that was one of my like biggest like synth purchases that I personally made. It was like a turning point for me, and it was like a milestone. But I would say just honestly, like my acoustic guitar, I've had it. It's been a part of my family. It's like an heirloom, so it was passed down to me. So I would say that that's probably my other prized musical possession. Yeah.
And I have two in the same vein. I have a 1987 Carvin bass, like a custom maple Carvin bass. It's beautiful. I came across it while I was working at a music shop here in Dallas, and it was my favorite guitar. And the person that was selling it, they weren't getting enough from the company that I was working for, like to buy it used. So I said, "Hey, meet me in the parking lot, and I'll pay you $100 extra to take it off your hands." And they're like, "Okay, fine."
Ooh, damn.
And it's a beautiful guitar, absolutely beautiful guitar. And then in terms of the one that I've actually used the most and like feel like is probably the real answer, you can actually see it behind Nick right there. It's probably I don't know if it counts as an instrument, but my Ableton Push 2. I use that for literally anytime I make music, I'm on that thing. And it's convenient, makes making music super fast, really cool.
Ooh, okay. Question number this is going to be 4, I think. Question 4.
Yes.
What would be a great wasteful trip in a time machine? Like, why would you go there? A great waste of a time machine.
Oh, that's a good question. Ooh, gosh, because it's like it's hard to say. Can you think of anything, Grammy?
The only thing I can think of that would be like truly wasteful, like why the fuck would you do that? Would be like I would love to go back in time to some random person that is like that has like a famous so agrees the guy that made Segway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Famously he died by driving his Segway off of a cliff or something like that.
Yeah.
Right. I would love to just show up like a day or two before and just be like, hey man, stop doing that demo. You're gonna die. Like I'm from the future. Stop doing that demo. You're gonna die soon. And just see what would happen. Just to see if it would like change anything. Like if the Segway guy was still around, you know, what's on TV, all that stuff. Yeah.
For me, like I don't know, because I feel like time traveling in either direction, whether it's like the future or the past, like I feel like even if it's like super mundane and I'm just like in some person's bedroom just like hanging out for a few minutes, like I feel like it would be so interesting. So I don't
Yeah.
know, like, but I guess going to like maybe like the Salem witch trials or something and just being like a normal person for like a day, that'd be kind of like just be like, what's going on? And just like hang out. Maybe that would be kind of cool. I don't know.
That's great. All right. Question number 5. Ooh. What's the silliest story you have about how you got hurt and people went, really?
Do you have one?
That's a good question. I'm trying to think of it.
I have a clear one that I actually could point out. So this Picasso right here.
It's just a print, not a real
It's just a
Picasso.
print, not a real Picasso. We found it at like a Habitat for Humanity like restore, like a thrift shop kind of thing, and it was beautiful. And I don't know if you can see it in the image. It no longer has glass in it.
Yeah.
Right. It had a pane of glass in here holding the print back, and right up here when I was first building my office, I wanted it up as the highest painting.
Yeah.
Which is really stupid given that it's the largest painting that I own. But Nick was like, hey, that's a bad idea. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I decided instead of using nails because we're renting, let's just use command strips to put this, 30 or 40 pound painting on the wall. And so I put them on there and I'm like, and I let my hands go and it just comes crashing down. All of the paintings fly off the wall and it slices up my leg super bad. And then I'm going to say, me and Nick in a panic, we run into the bathroom to like find stuff. And Nick's like, oh, we have some iodine spray or something that will help disinfect the cut, and proceeds to spray all over and it starts burning really bad. And I'm like, wait, I've never felt this before. Nick sprayed, what was it?
I think it was like bug spray or something.
Just sprayed bug spray straight into the wound.
I didn't read
We were panicking. I don't blame Nick at all, but it was a crazy time.
Oh my goodness.
God. That's great.
Oh. God, what a moment. I think for me, it would probably be back when I lived up north. So like we're in Dallas now, but I'm originally from Michigan, and I lived in Ohio at this time, and a couple friends were just like, "Yo, it's a snow day. Like, let's go take our snowboards just to like the local little. It was just like a little hill.
Ohio
I'm talking
behavior,
like
I swear.
Exactly, right? You know how it is. And so it was like behind the library, right? And so we've got our snowboards, and I've snowboarded many times, right? Well, anyways, there was a stump, like a log, like underneath the snow, and I didn't know that. Yes, nor. And so I was like full speed, hit the log. I just like flip a million times, and then my ribs like hit like another tree. So like I like was on my side and like hit a tree. The wind was like totally knocked out of me, and it ended up just being a joke between all my friends because they're like, "Of course you would do that. Like who else would do that?" But it was funny. I don't think I broke any ribs or anything, but it was just crazy. But they said that they wish that they had it on camera because I flipped like a million times supposedly. So it was pretty funny.
That's a great one. This question I like to steal from a podcast I listen to called Goods from the Woods. Rivers Langley, hey, how's it going? And everyone out from the Studiverse, how's it going? Favorite food place that isn't there, or favorite thing that isn't there anymore from where you grew up?
Oh,
I have one. Oh, okay. Shout out to Mama's Taqueria down the street from Sidney Lanier Elementary School in Oak Cliff, Texas. Oak Cliff was kind of, in Dallas. I went to school down in Oak Cliff, and me and my friends, like probably once a week, we'd walk to Mama's Taqueria, and sweetest old lady in the world. I don't even know her name. I always just called her Mama. But she ran this little. It was in this place called Moe's Backyard, where it was like there was all of these restaurants that set up in this guy's backyard, like literally what looked like an actual backyard.
Hell yeah!
And every day not every day, but like every time we went there, I don't know if one of my friends like knew her or something, or why she was so nice to us, but she would cook us like 60 tamales, and like it just give them to us in like a big like box, like a cardboard box.
Aquí está.
Yeah, and it'd be like me and like 6 friends, and we would go after school, we'd go get them, and then we'd go back to school and wait for the bus or whatever to pick us up. And we did that for like 2 years or something while I was in elementary school, and we were really young, probably shouldn't be walking to
all over the place by yourselves.
Restaurant. But I remember going back there to visit, wanting those tamales were amazing, and it was gone, and that broke my heart. And I don't know. I hope Mama's doing okay wherever you are. If you're watching this, I would love more tamales. But yeah.
Oh, that sounds delicious. Cafe Bigari also pointed out you hitting the wall in Tehran was another accident when you were a kid. That's another good story.
When I was in Iran, Cafe Bigari is my dad. For those that don't know, he runs a YouTube channel where he does Persian cooking. Really, really cool.
Ooh.
But when I was, oh God, I had to be like 8. My dad took me to Iran, and I was there with some family in Iran, and the only recreation that we really had were these scooters, like these Razor scooters. And so we decided to go this like 30-degree incline, right?
Oh my God.
Just go hill bombing on a Razor scooter. Now here's the problem: at the end of that hill was a brick wall, and so we either had to stop the scooter like right before, or we had to turn off. And I lost control, and I slammed into a brick wall and had to go to the hospital in Iran. Oh. It was awful.
Gnarly.
And I still have scars from it on my knees. It was bad.
I had to have you tell that story. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to do
it. That's great.
It's too good. But for the food question, I think there's kind of 2 for me. But like the reason I'm gonna do 2 is because the restaurant has been like resurrected, but as like a different restaurant. So it's actually in Houston. I was living in Houston for a while, and downtown they have like an incredible like different like restaurants from different countries, and just the cuisine is just incredible
like
in Houston.
A food hall
if you're
type place, right?
Yeah, it's like just the entire city in general. It's like it's very artsy, and it just really thrives as like mom and pop style restaurants, right? Well, anyways, there was a place called Lefendi, and it was just Mediterranean. Yeah, and it was just incredible. We'd go there with friends, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning it on here, but we would smoke hookah on the lounge, out in the outside patio, and the food was just absolutely scrumptious. And actually, just this summer when we were visiting Houston with Xander's family, we made a little pit stop over there, and essentially a new owner purchased the building after they closed down due to the flooding in Houston quite a few years back.
Okay.
Yeah. But they resurrected it. It's similar, but it's different, and but I do miss the original Lefendi. And then my second one I would say is outside of Austin, Texas, there's a huge man-made lake called Lake Travis, and there
Mhm.
was a floating restaurant. Um, and it was called Charlie's, and it was this floating restaurant. It was like a dock where you could pull your boat up. You get out. They've got live bands and all kinds of music and stuff, and it was just magical. And it closed down
Mm,
primarily because the lake started drying up. There was a huge drought in Texas about probably 8-9 years ago, and they
no,
closed. So super sad, but it was
brutal,
so sick, so cool.
brutal.
But
All right.
yeah, those are my two.
All right. Most dangerous location you've ever had to be in because you either had to do a work thing, it was an event thing you had to be, or you had some type of obligation to be near there and it was just not a place you should have been.
You have some, Grammy, from like your time busking and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. When I was in high school, I don't know if you're familiar with busking, but it's basically street performing, right? Like playing
Yeah.
music on the street. And I would do that. I mean, at my peak, I would do that like 3 or 4 times a week. And I would
Sheesh.
load everything up in my car. I'd drive, and you make like $50 or $100, and then you leave, right? Uh, but there were quite a few times. I mean, you're literally standing there alone on a street corner in a busy downtown area with a jar full of money, right? So a bunch of people, but you know what's so funny? It sounds when you say, yeah, I was 15 or 16 doing this, and I had a bunch of expensive equipment with me and I was doing XYZ. It sounds like you would run into a lot more danger than I ended up actually running into, thank goodness. But yeah, no, I had my jar stolen a few times. I definitely had some drunk guys that walked up wanting to pick a fight because I was too loud or whatever. There were times like that, but nothing too that I would describe as too dangerous though, which I think is for the better, right? Like I don't want I'm very glad that it was never too dangerous.
Yeah.
Honestly, for me, the only thing that comes to mind was back when I first moved to Texas. My family was living in Houston, and it was just me, my mom, and my sister. And I think it was like literally the third day being in Texas, but we had already purchased concert tickets at the House of Blues in downtown Houston.
Ooh.
And this was, I think, in 08, 09, right? So this was like before Google Maps was like super reliable and stuff. We didn't know the city. And we
MapQuest
drove
was the
down
place to
there.
go to.
You know it. Yes, MapQuest. We had it printed out. We had our, even our ticket stubs were printed. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everything was printed, nothing digital. And I'm not joking, y'all. After the concert was done, we left. There was nobody on the roads. Like there were nobody out, so nobody to ask. McDonald's was even closed, right? And we were just lost. Like our phones, we didn't really have signal. And I just remember just being lost in Houston with my mom and my sister. And I thought it was just like a really exciting night. We stayed up really late trying to get home. So it was funny. Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay. If you could eliminate one dish from existing in the world, what food dish would you get rid of?
Chili with beans.
That was so
Beans,
fast.
beans do not belong in chili. I'm from Texas. This is the truth. This is the gospel as it was spoken. Beans do not belong in chili. Chili should just be meat and spices and sauce. That's it.
I don't know. I love beans. I love beans, so I don't know.
I'm Mexican. Of course I'm gonna have an association with beans.
I
Well, I
love
like
beans.
beans. I just don't think
Not
they
in
belong.
chili, right?
It's not chili. If you give me chili and it has beans in it, and you don't say, "Oh, it's chili with beans," and you just say, "Hey, here's chili," and it has beans in it, I'm gonna be pissed off because that's not chili anymore.
That
It's
was like
something
the
else.
craziest thing for me, Jesse, like coming to Texas, like they don't make chili with beans.
Mhm.
They don't do that here. And I was like, "What do you mean you don't put beans in your chili? The beans are like the best part. It's so good." Crazy. Food to eliminate. I'm gonna be honest, I love food. Like I
Same.
love like all foods. It's very weird. I am not a picky eater at all. I just have a lot of food allergies. So
Ah,
I am like
that's the difference.
unfortunately like allergic to like shellfish, dairy,
Mm,
peanuts, right? So like I'm restricted in that regard. But
man.
back as like a child, before I knew I had these allergies, and I just thought, oh, everybody's face goes numb when they eat peanuts, right? I ate all of these things and I love all of them. So I can't really think of anything that I would say to eliminate because I just love everything. I don't know. I
That's
would try
valid.
anything.
That's valid. That's valid. All right. I got 3 left, and I would really want to make sure I can get y'all out of here as quickly as possible. Uh, oh, one tournament that you could go back in time and see in person.
Nick, you probably have something back from like your streaming days with like some dream hacks and stuff.
Yeah, so like I was super fortunate to go to quite a few conventions when I was streaming. Um but there was one particular Katowice DreamHack. I can't remember what year it was. I think it was like 2013, but it was
Mm-hmm.
in Sweden, like in Stockholm, and
Mm,
that was like the apex for like CS:GO, right? Like it was like Cloud9, and oh, it was just an incredible, incredible match. And I do wish I would have been able to go. So that one
mm,
comes.
nice.
For me, I'll go with the easy one for me because it was Nick and I watched it. I remember us watching it together on Discord. It was the first Melee major that I ever watched like live and like was there for the hype, which would be Summit 11. I would have loved to be a
Mm,
VIP, see that Mango Zane Grand Finals.
mm.
Probably the sickest Grand Finals of all time. I think it's the
Probably
best.
is. I know. Actually, I wonder if my buddy was working that one. I'm not sure. I'd have to ask him. I knew if you are guys are familiar with Top Shelf Esports out here from out here in SoCal. Jerry, like the head CEO of that. I knew him. I met him when he was a freshman in high school, and I was a senior. So it's a crazy story if anyone's watching and you go back and watch our interview together. It's weird because it's a mix of down memory lane, but also me basically learning about him all over again. Because when I met him, he was just like a little ninth grade freshman scene kid uh coming out of high school from the valley. So I wonder if he worked that one. I know he worked a couple of them. Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
that is, those are great
Zach
answers. Those are great answers. Ooh. Do you think there is a benefit for something like Game Pass to show up on a Nintendo console? You don't have to go too deep into it. Yes or no? Xbox Game Pass on a Nintendo console. Benefit, yay or nay?
So I can say like my relationship with Nintendo, obviously with Melee is a little stressed,
I know.
but in terms of actually like Nintendo stuff, the only time that Nick and I really play on a Nintendo console is when we're using Switch Online for like the retro stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like so like Dreamcast and the Game Boy
Yep.
and like all of their retro consoles and all the Sega stuff as well. And so for me, I think when it comes to retro stuff, absolutely. I don't know about for new stuff though. I don't really know.
Yeah. Like for instance, if it was like a battle pass for like you unlock, fun new levels or something for like some of like the old games or, new skins for stuff. I think it'd be interesting. I would love to see what Nintendo would come up with. They're
Mm.
always pretty creative, so it'd be fascinating.
All right. And final one. Hmm. I'm contemplating. Ooh. One piece of either a tournament, a set, a piece of media that you would show someone that doesn't understand any of your either gaming interest or musical interest. what would that one piece of media or one snippet of anything be?
That's a good one.
I
Nick,
think
I'll
I
let you
have
go
one for
first.
music, and it's like
Yeah.
top of mind because you just watched it, Grammy. But I would say like a video of like Victor Wooten. He's an incredible bassist, and I think he has a way of speaking while also playing. He did actually a performance in front of like college graduates. He was at their their announcement ceremony, and it's so moving the way that he can speak about creating as a leader, right? I would say that would be for music for me, but I bet Grammy has a gaming
Oh, I was gonna do a
example.
music one too. But I can
Oh,
think of
were you?
gaming.
Okay, you could do it. You could do a music one.
I
Do
think
both if you want.
yeah, for a music one, like I think Victor Wooten is up there for me. Like the Victor Wooten, anything he says is gold, and you should hold as gospel. If you're an aspiring musician, if you're someone that is interested at all in the art of making music and the art of like being a musician and what that means as like a single spiritual person, um I think Victor Wooten hits the nail on the head with everything he says. For me, I think if you have never heard of me before, if you've never like if there's nothing else that like reflects and you want to know like deeply what I'm about and what I like fuck with, I think Sun Ra, Venice Jazz Festival 1977, Take the A Train. He does this super weird fucking this weird intro to this like 10-minute song, this 10-minute version of the jazz standard Take the A Train that is just transcendental. It is absolutely it changed my life listening to it, and I think it illustrates a lot about you know what I like about music and what's possible with music. So there's that, and then for gaming, like I mean, I hate to say it because I know there are so many people that say like, "Oh, it's the doc" or "It's da 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 da," but like I really do think like the storylines and the way that it is told, I think there will never be another player like Hungrybox video. Like as much as I'm not a huge HBox fan, not anything personal or anything, just I've never been really into really any top player. But it for me, the way the stories are told and the way that it is introduced as Melee is not just like a game, but it has this history to it, and it's got all of this, deep lore that you need to understand before you can really watch a major and like get why people get so excited about this game. That to me, if you haven't seen it already, that's a great entry point into understanding why people love Melee so much and why people are so like diehard for it.
That's great. I would say a good one that didn't have as many views. It's the Turn Down for Walt Apex 2015 one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's
With the it had the salty sweet, it had the obviously PP,
the everything. They had everything. I think that's a really good one. That's a really good one. All right, dang. We took a decent amount of time. I know you said you had a hard out like right now, but you still want to try to ask me the 10?
If we rapid fire it, I think we might be able to get through it.
Let's find out.
Let's do it.
You want to take turns asking?
Yeah. First question, rapid fire, starting now. What inspired you to start this YouTube channel?
I really enjoyed gaming. I've always wanted to create some type of thing where I talk to people. I like to talk at length, as proven by the fact that we've been on this call for almost 2.5 hours, and I feel like we could still go for at least another hour. I don't know when to shut up. I originally wanted to try to do this at the very beginning. I found a local I wanted to go to because I knew I was never going to be that good because I got into Smash extremely late in my lifetime. When I was about to go do the first thing where I was going to get a camera and start interviewing people and hearing their stories from the community, because that's what I wanted to do. It was in March of 2020, and I didn't get a chance to do anything until about a year and a half ago. So I wanted to get people's stories that are not just Hungry Box, Mango, Spargo, MK Leo, and like I wanted to talk to random people within the community and not just players.
I love that.
That's
Okay,
incredible.
can you share a piece of behind the scenes lore, like a moment that is kind of surprising or funny, just about making videos and about making the content that you do?
Yeah, one funny thing is until I got this PC, I first started streaming just for the sake of streaming off of an old laptop that was originally bought by me and my fiance because we needed a computer, and I wanted to learn how to do stuff, and the computer that we had wasn't very good. So we got a laptop and say, hey, we're going to share this laptop. And that was the last time probably she ever used it. And I didn't get a actual good PC until about 2 years ago, which is this one right here from NZXT, that was able to run the video editing software, that was able to run a good codecs for streaming. This mic right here is my second mic. My first mic, my fiance got it for me as a kind of a surprise. She asked, "Hey, did you want to go to Best Buy? We had some free money." And she's like, "Hey, do you want to get a game for your Switch?" She's like, "Yeah." So we go, and I was about to go to the regular line. It's like, "Oh, we're supposed to go over here." It's like, "Okay, whatever." And I didn't notice that it was for pickup, and it's.
What an incredible partner. Oh my goodness.
She got
Also, your
me.
mic sounds incredible. Your audio is
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah.
I love my Elgato mic, but I have an extremely like close relationship to this very specific Yeti mic. It's because it was just her believing me and trying to do something like this. And before we drove away, I started crying and I couldn't help it. And I always think about it, and I'm tearing about it right now, thinking about how grateful I am for her and everything that she believes in me and in doing. So yeah.
Wow. Incredible.
I love that.
Incredible.
Yeah. So a lot of this wouldn't be possible without her. So that's the real behind the scenes.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so magic. Well, next question. I have a really good one for you. So,
Okay.
Grammy and I are really into scripting and kind of
Mhm.
like visualizing the future. So, where do you see this channel in 5 years for yourself?
God, I hope I've talked to enough people where people just ask me to be on here. That's really
Hell
the main.
yeah.
That's really the main thing. I took a leap of faith talking to, reaching out to Oates, getting the first one. Then I had a little bit of steam very early on. I couldn't keep that going because I work, a 9 to 5, and live so far away from where I work. So I'm like, okay, as long as I can do at least a couple at a time consistently, I'll be good. The first big name that I got was Lyric, the ultimate commentator. She agreed, and that was great. The fact that at this point, it's been almost a year later, at a local I went to, someone recognized me and said, "Hey, I remember that interview you did with Lyric. It was really awesome. I was glad to hear her story because I didn't know anything about her other than she's a commentator." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, thanks." And I was in her chat the other day, and I had brought that up, and she's like, "Oh my god, it's awesome. Let me know when you want to do a part 2." It's like, certainly. So yeah, that's kind of where I want to be going forward. Eventually, I built up enough goodwill amongst the different interviews and stuff that I've done that I can actually just have people ask me. Or at least
That's magic.
or at the very least respond with a yes or no immediately instead of just ghosting me.
I feel that. I feel that. Part of the grind. Part of the grind for sure.
Yeah, it
but,
is definitely.
we're manifesting it. We're putting it into the universe now. It's gonna happen.
Absolutely. I think we have time for about one or two more. So I want to get to the hard hitting, like
Do
fun,
it.
like cool ones.
Do it.
If you could have anyone on the show, right?
Mhm.
Whether it's gaming related, you could ask for the president. Like anyone that you want to be on the show, who would you choose?
Damn. I think the problem with that is I don't know who they are yet. The
Ooh.
problem with
like
that is
that.
I don't know who they are yet. Like, it's all about learning people's stories that like not everyone will have access to or not everyone knows, you know. When I had, you know, Jerry on, I mean, it was mostly because I wanted to know about him and find out, but like also what was his story. Lyric, yeah, she's a streamer, but how many people actually know her story? You know, y'all, like, how many people know your story? If it's someone that everyone has access to and they can just kind of just always ask them about, and it's on a grander stage, there's not that much emotional value in kind of learning who that is. It's really, I don't know who they are until I see them.
I
I
love
love
that.
that. I actually think that's really magic. You're opening, you're allowing it just to unfold and keeping the doors open for that. I love
Yeah.
that. I guess this will be our last question for you.
Okay.
I think this is a pretty good one. But what is one piece of advice that you would give to somebody else who's starting a similar channel as you? What would you say?
Hmm. For me, one thing that I've realized was I did a lot of research into kind of like, what do I need? What kind of equipment do I need? A lot of time you can just get bare bones. If you have a phone and a way to get audio out of it, you can go out into the streets and ask people. You know, my Galaxy phone is amazing. You can get an iPhone now, that's amazing. They both have USB-C, so most of that stuff just works like that. But if you don't go out there and actually try to do it when you have the chance, you're not going to really be able to put anything out there. And the thing that I always hear people say is, your first few are always going to be terrible. And if you're not willing to be terrible, then you're not going to really know how much greater you can be. So just start doing
Absolutely.
it. Start doing
Just
it.
do it. I love that. I love that. That's great energy. That's
Do
great
it.
advice.
Hold
I
on.
love that.
Do it.
Do it. A classic meme. Oh, Jesse, it was seriously just so fabulous. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for being here. Again, any last second shout outs. I already put your all's socials in the description, but anything else, any places you want to go have them follow you, any additional people you want them to follow, say it right now. Shout outs. Do all the shout outs that you want right now before we leave.
I want to take this opportunity to say something that Nick might not like, which is please follow us on Twitter, because we have 600 followers on Twitter, and it's crazy because we've sold more than 600 devices. So I know that you motherfuckers are out there that aren't following us on Twitter that are playing on our controllers right now. So feel free to give us a follow on Twitter at Graham Controllers, and we promise we only post the coolest posts and the most fun content. So
For real.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I echo that. That's it. And then subscribe to Drug Free Plays. Subscribe
Yes.
wherever the
Subscribe.
button is.
If you hit the button, it turns gray. That means you subscribe. So make sure it's gray.
Do it.
And hit the bell as well.
Yeah, hit the bell.
Yeah.
Hit the bell icon.
You never know. You never know when I'm gonna go live or tell somebody's story. I might go somewhere and just say, "Hey, look, I built a Lego." I don't know.
Yeah.
Gang, again, thank you very much. I'm gonna let you go. I've taken you over an extra 15 minutes. Thank you for being here. Everyone, chat, say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. You may leave as you need to. Goodbye. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye,
hopefully.
Jesse.
Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
You as well.
That was awesome, chat. Thank you. It truly was a pleasure as well. I enjoyed this whole thing. I love it. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for showing up supporting not just me, but supporting Graham. They have such a great project going. I really love what they have going on. Get yourself in that community if you have any questions. Again, I have links to their social medias, to their website. Go ahead, give them a follow. Check out the website, peruse everything. Thank you for being here. I love the fact that we got to, hear their inspirations and everything. Perhaps we'll be able to do these again more regularly. I have a couple people lined up going forward. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a like on the stream. Doesn't really do that much to do. And I just want to say thank you. I'm going to have something for next month, maybe. We'll see. There's a secret project I kept mentioning. If I keep talking about it, why is it a secret? I don't know. But thanks again for hanging out. Yeah, that's it. Goodbye, everybody. Enjoy some music while I close this out. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.